This is the morning brief on SAFM. It's all the local and international news, current affairs, insights and opinions that you need to lead the conversation today. I'm Thulasizwe Simelane and I'm here to deliver your morning brief. Well, you've heard the breaking story in leading our bulletin this morning. Dali Mpofu, who was once the national chairperson of the Economic Freedom Fighters, becomes the latest leading figure in that party to leave the party for the Thulasizwe party, and it's the latest move. I remember at the time when Floyd Shivambu left the EFF, you remember that Julius Malema talked about a number of others that he was expecting would follow suit, but I wonder if he expected it to be to this extent. And the question has to be asked, what is going on? What is really going on? Is it something that's going on in the EFF, or is it the allure and the attraction of the Thulasizwe party and the potential that it holds for, a space that it can really occupy within the opposition politics in South Africa? So is it a pull factor towards the Thulasizwe party, or are there push factors that are pushing all of these top leaders out of the EFF? There has to be some kind of reflection that talks about that. A strong opposition is good for our democratic hygiene, and whichever it is, Thulasizwe party, EFF and all of the others that are outside of the government of national unity, the strength of those parties is good for our democratic hygiene, and we have to perhaps start asking the questions, are there push factors within the EFF that are pushing out all of these leaders, or is it a matter of pull factors in that they see the Thulasizwe party as the real potential vehicle to drive opposition politics in this country? Weigh in on that. Give me a call and share your reflections as well. We'll see how we take that story forward for you in the coming hours. But the other big story that we are, of course, watching, in the end, it wasn't even close. It wasn't even close. How America's number 45 became number 47. Donald Trump stages one of the most remarkable political comebacks to reclaim the White House. In the end, it wasn't even close, as I say, with Trump having already secured 295 electoral college votes, well above the 270 that he needed to win, and significantly dwarfing Kamala Harris's 226. It's also been confirmed that his Republican Party will control the Senate, one of the two houses of the legislature in the United States. And they are also, they are also leading in as far as the race to control the House of Representatives. So what it all means is that Trump's administration, the second Trump administration, will have a strong hand in implementing its legislative and policy agenda. But in all of this, we have to ask the questions: what are the implications for U.S. and global markets and the economy? What does quote-unquote America first mean for countries that have long held the United States as a dependable development and trade partner? What does it all mean, this America First approach that we know Donald Trump has promised to take? You remember, of course, that he also said that his favorite word in the dictionary, I always thought it was wall, but it turns out it's tariffs. He says his favorite word is tariffs. What are the implications if he imposes the kind of tariffs that he's been talking about on economies, including ours? The Africa Growth and Opportunities Act will come up for review within his term of office. What are the implications thereof? So we'll put a bit of a focus on that, especially in the second hour of the show just after 7 a.m. The situation in Mozambique, to say it's concerning, is an understatement. We're hearing now that truckers, traders, tourists and officials working at or using the N4 Witbank-Maputo corridor between South Africa and Mozambique have been warned of extreme volatility amid the post-election unrest that has erupted in parts of that country. And today is the day of what the opposition leader, Venancio Mondlane, has called the Day of Freedom, calling for protests and marches across the country of Mozambique. As well that the government in Mozambique has been, has had police responding all along, but has also now turned to the defense force in Mozambique to be part of the response to the protests in Mozambique following the elections that happened on the 9th of October. Scores of people have been killed. It's difficult to get an accurate number, but we know for a fact that many people have died. Scores of people have died. So we'll have a conversation about that situation at about 20 to 7 this morning. You'll remember that the border between South Africa and Mozambique at Komati Port had to be closed for a while. We'll also tell you how that is going. So those are some of the stories that we'll be reflecting over the next 3 hours. Of course, we have all of your regulars locked and loaded and lined up for you, and Musa with news updates every half hour. We have Rob Byrne with your traffic updates every 15 minutes or so. Zaikan will be watching your sport throughout the morning. Dauleng Lechela has your economics, business and market news covered. Sipho Mandula with your Africa update just before 8 a.m. And of course, through it all, on these issues and others that you want to raise, give me a call. The number to dial is 086 000 2032. I'll also take your WhatsApp voice notes on 061 410 4107. This is SAFM. We are leading the conversations that move us. The first hour of the Thursday edition of the Morning Brief starts now.
SAFM commemorates Disability Rights Awareness Month under the theme Celebrating 30 Years of Democracy, Creating a Disability-Inclusive Society for a Better Quality of Life and the Protection of the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. SAFM supports and works tirelessly towards equity and equality for those living with disabilities. Empowerment is key. Let us break the barriers and improve the quality of life for those living with disabilities. Our tireless efforts towards a better life for those living with disabilities can only be impactful when we do so together. We do not tolerate any kind of discrimination. Disability Awareness Month 2024, only on SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. Disability Rights Awareness Month on SAFM. The Daily News Diary on SAFM.
All right, for that, let's turn to Ann Musa. Good morning to you, Ann. The
Good
big news
morning.
coming out this morning, Dalimpofu, hey?
Dalimpofu, announcing that he has actually taken a decision and is joining the Thulasizwe party, saying that, after a lot of soul searching, that he will be joining Thulasizwe, and he believes that it is the vehicle through which we will achieve the much needed black and progressive unity. So lots of reaction and analysis, expected on this by Dalimpofu.
What else is on the diary?
Well, other big story, there 4 years after he was voted out of the White House, Donald Trump has recaptured the White House, and he did it comfortably so. Also analysis on his election victory, as well as the question, what does it mean for South Africa? There's also protests in Jerusalem. That's over the sacking of the defense minister, looking at protests in Mozambique as well against last month's disputed election. It's continuing to escalate there, and protests are set to culminate into a national shutdown today. There's a march expected onto the capital, Maputo. Also looking at the border activities, at the Libombo border post with Mozambique. Trucks continue to stretch over about 15 kilometers to the border, and travelers as well advised to avoid the border until further notice. President Cyril Ramaphosa undertaking a visit to KwaZulu-Natal, where he will honor the heritage of King Shaka Zulu, hold discussions with the Provincial Executive Committee, and also engage with residents of eThekwini. But President Ramaphosa starting his morning today with the unveiling of a statue of King Shaka Zulu at King Shaka International Airport. And Nandipa Magudumana, who was arrested in Tanzania with the convicted murderer and rapist Thabo Bester in April last year, heads to the Supreme Court of Appeal, and this to challenge her extradition. In June, the Free State High Court ruled that Magudumana, who accused the police of abducting her, consented to return to South Africa and told law enforcement that she wanted to see her children. So just some of the top stories that we are focusing on this morning.
All right, thank you for that. And as you were talking about Donald Trump, I was thinking, you know what they say, he's back like umqolo. He's back like, your spine.
He's back like umqolo.
Yeah.
Your backbone.
Your backbone.
Okay, strong like that.
It's at the back.
He's strong like that. He's back.
All right, and Musa will keep you updated on the news every half hour here on the Morning Brief.
Thulasizwe Simelane on SAFM.
So it's a bit overcast in Joburg. Let's see if it stays that way throughout the day, and I wonder what it's looking like where you are. Let me give you your weather then. We have two warnings that are impact-based. The first one is a yellow level 2 warning. It says severe thunderstorms resulting in heavy downpours, hail, and strong damaging wind, leading to damage to property and infrastructure, settlements, major travel disruptions, and disruptions of municipal and other essential services are expected over the western parts of the northwest, northern parts of the Free State, as well as the extreme southwestern parts of the Highveld of Mpumalanga. There's also a yellow level 1 warning saying that damaging waves resulting in coastal routes, seafronts, and coastal communities affected by spray and/or large waves are expected between Cape Point and Plettenberg Bay. There's also a fire danger warning. It says extremely high fire danger conditions are expected over the northwestern parts of the Free State, western parts of the northwest, central and northeastern parts of the Northern Cape, as well as the northern parts of the Western Cape. The rest of your weather looks like this. Pretoria, partly cloudy with isolated late afternoon thunder showers with a minimum of 17 and a maximum of 27. Johannesburg, partly cloudy with isolated afternoon thunder showers, 15 to 25. Mbombela, cloudy with morning drizzle and fog patches, 14 to 17. Polokwane, cloudy, 15 to 22. Mahikeng, partly cloudy with scattered afternoon thunder showers, 17 to 31. Bloemfontein, fine, becoming partly cloudy, 8 to 31. Kimberley, fine, with a minimum of 8 and a maximum of 33. Cape Town, fine, and the wind will be light to moderate southeasterly with a minimum of 17 and a maximum of 31. George will be fine. The wind will be light northeasterly in the morning, otherwise moderate to fresh easterly to southeasterly with a minimum of 11 and a maximum of 21. Gqeberha will be partly cloudy. The wind will be light to moderate easterly with a minimum of 10 and a maximum of 21. East London is partly cloudy. The wind will be light to moderate easterly with a minimum of 11 and a maximum of 21. Durban will be partly cloudy with scattered showers and thunder showers. The wind is moderate easterly to southeasterly, becoming light to moderate northeasterly in the evening with a minimum of 16 and a maximum of 20. Richards Bay will be cloudy with scattered showers and thunder showers. The wind will be moderate to fresh southerly to southeasterly, becoming moderate easterly in the afternoon with a minimum of 17 and a maximum of 21. And finally, Pietermaritzburg will be partly cloudy with scattered showers and thunder showers with a minimum of 10 and a maximum of 16.
RB Leipzig believe every football moment counts and they want nothing but a win. Meanwhile, Borussia Mönchengladbach target 3 points as they embark on a journey to escape from the bottom half. This is the Bundesliga. Football as it's meant to be. Catch the nail-biting encounter between RB Leipzig and Borussia Mönchengladbach on Saturday 9 November at 7:30 p.m. Live everywhere for everyone. Always on SABC Plus. Also available on sabcsport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Bridget Masinga on SAFM.
What is workplace professional bullying?
Well, workplace bullying, is technically defined as repeated patterns of harmful behavior towards fellow employees. And traditionally, this took on the forms of verbal abuse, social isolation, intimidation at work, interference with somebody's work arrangements, character assassination, and really that is what the historical context is. that workplace bullying is defined as.
Dr. Meyer is a leadership expert.
Bridget Masinga, weekdays on The Full Circle. All podcasts can be downloaded on safm.co.za.
Did you know the October Transport Month campaign commenced on the 1st of October 2024? This year marks an important milestone in the calendar of the National Department and Provincial Departments of Transport as they celebrate 19 years of the annual October Transport Month OTM campaign. The OTM highlights the extent to which the department, provincial departments of transport, and entities of transport are responding to the priorities of the 7th administration, which include developing infrastructure to grow an inclusive and sustainable economy, create jobs, and improve standards of living while improving overall service delivery efficiencies. Doing more together, building better infrastructure, and delivering efficient service through collaboration. This message is brought to you by the National Department of Transport.
SAFM commemorates Disability Rights Awareness Month under the theme Celebrating 30 Years of Democracy, Creating a Disability-Inclusive Society for a Better Quality of Life and the Protection of the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. SAFM supports and works tirelessly towards equity and equality for those living with disabilities. Empowerment is key. Let us break the barriers and improve the quality of life for those living with disabilities. Our tireless efforts towards a better life for those living with disabilities can only be impactful when we do so together. We do not tolerate any kind of discrimination. Disability Awareness Month 2024. Only on SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. Disability Rights Awareness Month on SAFM.
Our role must be to seek to build a better world.
SAFM invites you to our annual public lecture delivered by former Minister Dr. Naledi Pandor. The theme for the lecture is 30 Years of South African Freedom. Reimagining South Africa's democracy, achievements, challenges, and the road ahead in protecting our democratic gains. The lecture will take place on the 21st of November 2024 at the Birchwood Hotel and Conference Center. Secure your seat by emailing us at info@safm.co.za.
Today, I'm part of seeking to build a better South Africa.
SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. Call Thulasizwe now, 086 000 2032.
All right, so we are reflecting on the elections that took place in the United States and the results that are trickling in. And as I said, in the end, it turned out not to be even close in terms of the electoral college votes that were required for Donald Trump to secure the White House. At this point, he has already secured 295 electoral college votes. He needed just 270, and you compare that with Kamala Harris's 226. The big conversation, of course, for all of us, and we've been saying, what is the significance? It's not just a matter of, broadcasters seeking to, hype up the importance of the American elections, but it is that the United States is considered a development partner and trade partner for many African countries, including our own. You'll remember that there's that all-important Africa Growth and Opportunities Act, which has been in place for quite some time, that facilitates really trade and exports between African countries and the United States and opens up markets. From time to time, that conversation comes up about the desirability of having some countries continuing to be part of the AGOA scheme. You wonder now, with the return of Donald Trump and his focus on America first, what the implications thereof are, what the implications are for the global community, because, he's got a bit of a skepticism for some of the international institutions. You'll remember the many agreements from which he withdrew the United States, the most significant one being the climate change, the Paris Accord on the issue of climate change. And you will remember that South Africa played a key role in brokering that when it was being negotiated a few years ago. Let me hear what's on your mind. That's really the main story for me that dominated the moment. But let me hear what you are thinking of this morning.
Good morning, Thulas Kuku Kombo. When the ANC became a truly mass-based party in 1944, it was through the ructions brought about by the class of 1944, that is the ANC Youth League. That is what is currently happening within the EFF. Those who have assumed celebrity status or the elites in the party are the ones that are leaving the party through disgruntlement that they do not make it to the GNU. However, the core or the engine of the organization, which is the ground force, remains intact.
Yeah, thank you for that, Kugu. That's an interesting point. So your take is that it is people that are seeking celebrity status and a bit disgruntled that are leaving. I actually think that's a very strong point that you make. And the core, as you say, is the membership and what you call the ground forces of the EFF that you are saying will remain and should keep the party in track. Let me take a call this morning from David. David, good morning to you. You want to talk to me about Donald Trump and his re-election.
Hello.
Hi, David. I can hear you. Go ahead, please.
Yes. Good morning.
Yeah.
Life is a scam. People don't like this. People who are rough, who are inconsiderate, they get voted. Similarly, you look at South Africa, you look here as to how the Transnet, SAA, where it was destroyed. But here you are, you have them contest, that somebody's up there on top. Look at the USA. So people don't love peace. They don't want people to rule them in a proper way and be accommodative. So everything is a scam. Anyway, thank you very much.
Did you say everything is a scam?
It's a scam. How can I vote for Thulasizwe, who's very destructive, who's destroying, who doesn't even care? Life is a scam.
Okay.
People don't want you. They just want crooks and criminals. That's all.
All right, David. Thank you. On that sobering note, that's David there calling in about the re-election of Donald Trump. Of course, there are no hard lines, black and white in politics. There are lots of gray areas. You can never really know what it is that people want and are seeking in terms of their choices that they make politically. At 6:30, let's check in with N. Musa now with the latest news headlines.
Good morning. Thanks to us. In the headlines, former EFF chairperson, Advocate Dali Mpofu, has joined the Mkhonto Sizwe party. Mpofu joined what was once the third largest party upon its formation in 2013 and served as the chairperson of the Red Berets for 5 years from 2014. The Gauteng Education Department says 12 of the 110 learners from Tamaho Primary School in Katlehong remain hospitalized after suspected food poisoning. And U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris has officially conceded the election for the presidency to Donald Trump. I'll have details on these and other stories at 7.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Usual spots in Joburg are building up, including the Mike 1 Boysons through to Empire. It's busy, but it's fairly standard. Standard also is the queue that comes through every morning on the N3 from Ilan's interchange up to that never-ending set of roadworks up by Van Buren. It's on your way to Galuli's. It's quite slow. Durban queuing up already on the N2 southbound, going down to the closure of the N2 towards Amanzimtoti at Joyner Road. So there's pressure on the highway, a lot of pressure on the bridge there, and some pressure over on Prospecton Road. So you've got the highway that queues into the closure point. You've got motorists coming off either there at Joyner or back before that at Prospecton, and either going into Isipingo or into Prospecton. So local routes are building up. We thought it'd probably be closer to 7:30 before the real heavy stuff comes, but it is already starting to backlog. Make sure you've got plenty of time, and make sure you avoid travel in that key peak PM period from about 3 o'clock until 7:30, maybe even 8 PM. The traffic just gets absolutely horrendous. It hardly moves through that area, given the big volume that has to come off the highway and divert locally. Cape Town, major delay alert if you drive on the N1 inbound. A little bucky's flowing off the highway into a ditch on the side of the carriageway by Brackenfell Boulevard. So big queues coming through from Kraaifontein already. Okavango Road taking a bit of a hammering across that N1 highway bridge as well. And then Baden-Powell Drive, we warned about sand at the bottom of Khayelitsha at Monwabisi. Baden-Powell is now closed there, so you will be diverting in through Khayelitsha. There's also sand slowing things up, but the road is still open at this stage further in at Coastal Park. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
So the mighty Sea Robbers want to rob the Sea of the Betway Premiership, but not so fast. Masandawana are hot on their heels.
Exactly. Masandawana.
Hot pursuit.
Hot pursuit.
In the high seas of the Betway. Okay, I'll stop. Go ahead.
I love the analogy of all of that. The Sea Robbers, yes. No, they're definitely hijacking it away from them. Sundowns, man, their championship grit last night. They also avenged their earlier defeat to Polokwane City with a 2-0 win at Loftus Versfeld. So, yeah, that was the score against Polokwane City last night. The star of the show, 18-year-old Kutwano Letlaku, he scored a brace. And with this win, Sundowns narrowing the gap behind the leaders, Orlando Pirates, to just 3 points. Big news now in the world of South African soccer. TS Galaxy head coach Siad Romovic stepping down in dramatic fashion following a 1-1 draw against Stellenbosch FC at Athlone Stadium. Romovic stunned viewers by announcing his resignation live on TV. The German coach, who has led the Rockets since 2021, said his decision was final despite efforts from his players to convince him otherwise. Reflecting on his time, Romovic described it as an unbelievable 3 years.
It's one of the most beautiful clubs in my heart, and I would like to say that from now up I will resign. I'm not more the head coach for this club, and why in this one we will time, but we celebrate this victory for us, and the time will show.
Elsewhere, Arsenal fell to a second consecutive defeat as Inter Milan beat them 1-0 at the San Siro in the Champions League. Mikel Arteta's side arrived in Italy without Declan Rice because of an injury on a weekday head to Chelsea. That's in the Premier League. They also back off a damaging defeat at Newcastle, and Declan Rice's absence felt as the Gunners lost in Europe for the first time this season. In another match, Aston Villa defender Tyrone Mings made an embarrassing handball blunder that condemned his side to a shock 1-0 defeat against Club Brugge in the Champions League. Staying there as well, Shakhtar Donetsk staged a quick comeback to secure a 2-1 home victory over Swiss side Young Boys in their Champions League group clash. And we have some news from tennis action. China's Zhang Qiwen reaching the semi-finals of the WTA finals in Riyadh after claiming an impressive 6-1, 6-1 win over Italian fourth seed Jasmine Paolini. In her WTA finals debut, the 22-year-old Qiwen became the youngest player to reach the semi-finals since Petra Kvitova in 2011. Now, the 7th-seed Zhang fired 12 aces in a dominant performance, recording her 30th win from 34 matches since Wimbledon. And finally, golf news. Rory McIlroy believes Donald Trump's return to the White House could bring peace between the PGA Tour and the Saudi Arabia-funded breakaway LIV circuit, and has speculated that Elon Musk could play a key role in negotiations on golf's future. The U.S. Tour is involved in protracted negotiation with the Saudi public investment aimed at healing a divisive split in men's professional golf, where many leading stars remain banned from the PGA Tour. A proposed deal, first unveiled in June 2023, is likely to face opposition from America's Department of Justice, which has concerns over its potentially leading to breaches of anti-competition laws. That's where we leave it for now on The Morning Brief. We'll have more sport headlines, top of the hour. I'm Zai Khan.
The Business Update on SAFM.
And for that, let's turn to Ndauling Lechela. Good morning to you, Ndauling. Trump trade is firmly in play. What does that mean exactly?
Morning, Tulas. Now, leading up to the election, there's been a lot of talk about Trump trade versus Harris trade. This refers to the stocks and assets that are poised to benefit under either Trump or Harris. Now that we have the new U.S. president, the assets tied to Trump trade are soaring. While we've seen an overall market rally in the U.S., stocks operating in the tech, energy, and financial sectors, as well as the crypto industry, have been making big gains. Zooming in on digital assets in particular, Bitcoin, which is the largest cryptocurrency in the world, has hit a record high of $76,493. The rally there not just limited to Bitcoin, with other coins like Ether making big gains and crypto exchange Coinbase also ticking higher. Now this comes as Donald Trump positioned himself as a pro-crypto candidate from the beginning of his campaign, actively courting the industry with key promises. He's vowed to establish a crypto advisory council within his first 100 days in office, introduce favorable regulations to boost domestic Bitcoin mining, and create a strategic national Bitcoin stockpile. Now, the industry has been frustrated with the SEC's lack of clear guidance in recent years, making this year's presidential election crucial for the industry's future. Anthony Yuong, global head of strategic development at CoinCover, noted that while Trump aims to make the US the crypto capital of the world, the details of his plan remain unclear, and it may take time to understand his stance on crypto. Despite the slight uncertainty, the sector is holding on to Trump's pro-crypto stance and is optimistic about potential growth and development following the election.
Sure. Let's turn to company news now. Novo Nordisk is seeing a boost, and this is driven partly by the demand for weight loss products.
Novo Nordisk really raking it in there, Thulas, and benefiting, of course, from increased demand for weight loss.
These are the makers of Ozempic, right?
Ozempic,
yeah.
That's right. During the third quarter, the group topped analyst expectations with its weight loss drug, Wegovy, delivering a 79% jump in sales. Despite this, the drug maker has lowered its sales growth forecast for the year, citing demand concerns. Now, demand is outpacing supply in that market, presenting growth challenges for both Novo Nordisk and its competitor, Eli Lilly. Novo Nordisk has warned that supply constraints are expected to persist throughout the year. To address these bottlenecks, the Danish pharmaceutical giant recently acquired its subcontractor, US-based drug maker Catalent, for $16.5 billion. Additionally, in June, Novo Nordisk announced a $4.1 billion investment to expand its manufacturing capacity in the U.S. with a new plant in North Carolina. Now, Novo currently holds 70% of that weight loss market, benefiting from increased popularity of its drugs, which include Wegovy as well as Ozempic.
Yeah, and it's important to point out that Ozempic is not a weight loss drug per se, because you know the whole story around how demand for it in that sense has sort of made it difficult for those who actually need it for the control of diabetes. A recap then for us, Ntaoleng, of the markets here at home as well as elsewhere in the world.
Now, the traders that were betting on a Trump win, Thulas, really benefiting from the election outcome, and we're seeing a market rally on the back of that. U.S. stocks hit record highs in yesterday's trade, with the Dow Jones leading the gains, up over 3.5% in yesterday's close. The picture not so rosy on the local front, with markets plunging. The all-share losing 1.5% at the close as investors start assessing what a Trump victory means for South Africa and the global economy at large. On the currency front, the US dollar initially surging and weighing on the rand. At some point, the local unit hit 1780 to the greenback, but it has since retraced those losses, sitting at 1760 to the dollar this morning. Looking at Asian markets, a mixed picture on that front as investors weigh the impact of a second Trump presidency with its promise of steeper tariffs.
All right, once you've gotten your update on what your money is doing from Ntaoleng, you know your day has well and truly started. Ntaoleng Lichela will be back in the second hour of the show just after 7:30 with another update of business news, the economy, as well as markets from here at home and around the world.
RB Leipzig believe every football moment counts and they want nothing but a win. Meanwhile, Borussia Mönchengladbach target 3 points as they embark on a journey to escape from the bottom half. This is the Bundesliga. Football as it's meant to be. Catch the nail-biting encounter between RB Leipzig and Borussia Mönchengladbach on Saturday, 9 November at 7:30 p.m. live everywhere for everyone. Always on SABC Plus. Also available on sabcsport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Big stories of the day. Hashtag the morning brief.
All right, at 18 minutes to 7, let's turn to this now. Truckers, traders, tourists and officials working at or using the N4 Maputo corridor between South Africa and Mozambique have been warned of extreme volatility amid the post-election unrest that has erupted in parts of that country. On Tuesday night, the border town on the opposite side of the Limpopo border post at Komati Port was covered with black smoke after protesters set fire to tires, trucks, cars and buildings. Let's bring into the conversation Nixon Katembo, who is an African affairs analyst. He is in studio. I was a bit surprised. I love it. May many more follow your example, Nixon. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Thulasizwe. I'm as well part of the SABC, so that's why you find me here.
It's beautiful. So the elections happened on the 9th of October. We are well into November now. Yet there doesn't seem to be stability that is coming through. Is this a situation now that should become of regional concern?
It is certainly a situation of regional concern. You have to look at Mozambique in context. One of the two countries in Africa which won its independence through the force of arms. And immediately after that, it faced a civil war. A civil war that pitted to the current Frelimo and the Renamo parties, both of which were contesting for the elections. Two, it happened in a context where Mozambique also faced the issue of a geopolitical question, East versus West. And you know how Samora Machel was greatly advancing the idea of liberating Mozambique, but also the kind of allies that he had versus what Renamo had at the time in the form of the apartheid government. And by the way, Renamo was the first sort of what I would determine in my own view, a terrorist organization on a continent by chopping the hands of the people in Mozambique.
Yeah, we all remember those horrors.
So we have the memory of that, and we have to put this into context to understand what is going on in Mozambique. Three is the issue of natural resources of the country. As four is the issue now of governance, corruption that is bedeviling the country. What would say that? But you see that the discussion happened in one context, not necessarily looking at the overall picture of the Mozambican situation.
So fill in then the overall picture for us. You were in Mozambique during those elections. If someone is wondering what are the seeds, what happened in that election that could have led to so much discontent, you were there. What did you observe?
Well, one of the things that I observe is that they look at corruption, look at maladministration on the part of the current government, but also the dynamics in the changing demographic of the country. For me, that was a critical factor because you could see that the youth that do not associate the historical context of the country in terms of the liberation aspect that happened in the country is very open in your eyes when you engage, and even the discussions when you engage some of these youthful people in Mozambique. And it's no wonder that they are easily attracted or even swayed to political persuasion that seeks to deal with a sort of political issues through the form of protest. And for me, I think that's what's having a real impact. It's how politicians sort of manipulate the public opinion to have their say in terms of disputing these elections.
In terms of the election outcome itself, it was a dominant performance if you take the results as announced by Frelimo. Does that tally up with the amount of contestation that was happening? In other words, what I'm asking is, you know, when there's major contestation, you expect it to be a close contest. And when you see people winning by over 70%, 90%, you then wonder, you know, Does the picture reflect the extent to which there was a contest?
Well, that is not up for me to say.
Yes,
but
of course.
what I'm going to say is this, is that the situation in Mozambique is not strange to many of the situations that happen on the continent where the problem of incumbency factors in on how the elections are going to happen. And that is one. But also the involvement of other factors in terms of the geopolitical nature of how these elections have happened. There was several funding coming from outside. The European Union, the United States Development Agency, USAID, these are all factors that you have to put into context vis-a-vis the political situation that is happening in the country. And for me, when I look at those, you have to go beyond what you see, beyond the narrative that the elections were stolen, beyond the narrative the elections happen in a political environment that is diluted with corruption scandals, beyond the narrative that the country in itself has a historical context that I have just touched on.
Tell me, Nixon, about the security situation in Mozambique. It was complicated going into the elections already with the need for intervention, particularly in the last few years in areas like Cabo Delgado. Now we're hearing the defense minister was talking and saying that we may need to escalate the involvement of the army, and I've heard people talking about Rwandan troops and the likes. Tell me how that plays into what we are seeing now.
It certainly plays, because Mozambique plays a crucial role now in the energy sector in the world, particularly with the gas deposit in Cabo Delgado. And you'd recall that the European Union is funding the Rwandan forces to be there. But also there have been a report of the Rwandan forces, Rwanda particularly, with the Crystal Venture, which is the investment arms of RPF, the ruling party in Rwanda, is scoring contracts within the Mozambican government to the tune of $800 million. So these are massive investments on both parts, Rwanda and the European Union, Total as well, and ExxonMobil, who are extracting the natural resource in terms of gas. So they have to play a part in what is going to be happening in Mozambique. But also that dictates the security situation. And I'm afraid that Mozambique might fall into the region of resource curse that we see in the countries such as the DRC or any other part of the continent that have conflict that have been influenced by the contestation of resources, but geopolitical dynamics that also happen in the current modern world. So we have to factor in all of these situations. You cannot just take aspect of security alone or corruption alone or even the elections in per se, the political dynamics internally. You have to look beyond. And for me, I'm insisting on that.
Hey, Nixon, I've got to thank you for coming through. Really enjoyed these insights. There you have it. Top insights on the situation in Mozambique from Nixon Katembo, who is an Africa Affairs analyst here on the Morning Brief.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Here's one you might want to most definitely steer away from if you're driving into Pretoria this morning. The N14, the Ben Schoeman Highway, gets exceptionally heavy from Euphius Road going up into the CBD towards the R101 Old Joburg Road exit. If you've ever been through there in the morning, you'll know exactly what's happening. So off-ramp at Euphius and just take alternative routes. Otherwise, you go up the N1 and just off-ramp at the R21 going through Fountain Circle. That at least is a clear run through. N14, Ben Schoeman getting pretty heavily backed up. Joburg, Mike 1 running north from Gold Reef City through to Empire Road, looking fairly substantially backed up, and no traffic lights still in the north. Lone Hill, well, there's a load of lights down around Four Ways, but the big ones are sort of Lone Hill on Main Road at Vic, Copper and Main and Robin, so there's some real pressure as you come from Lone Hill in towards that Bryanston area. Starting to queue up through Prospect and in fact all over the region. The N2 South closure at Joyner Road, queuing traffic in towards the closure. Local routes through Prospect and local routes through Isipingo getting busy, and even the N2 North a little bit slower than normal as motorists continue to have a look at the bridge damage. And have a look at what's going on the southbound side. So a little bit of traffic on that northbound this morning, but generally anything going south is pretty heavily backed up. Cape Town, a busy one. Crash on the M1 into town at Brackenfell Boulevard. That queues all the way back to the farmlands at Justenburg. Baden-Powell closed at Khayelitsha due to thick sand at Monwabisi Corner. We put some pictures of how thick it is up on Twitter at Traffic SA. You can have a look at that. There's some slow-go traffic through more sand between Strandfontein and Muizenberg around Coastal Park. And just to note, that section of roadway may also need to be closed this morning as well. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
Think bigger than just a banking partner. Think a team of specialized experts supporting you to make better financial decisions to enable your growth aspirations. Think a strategic partnership providing indispensable advice to help you make the right moves. Think bigger. Think Nedbank Commercial Banking. For more information, visit nedbank.co.za. See money differently. Nedbank. We're a licensed FSP and registered credit provider.
Shot! That's clean out of here! FlySafair is headed for 6 as the new official domestic carrier of Proteas cricket. We're thrilled about this partnership and can't wait to fly them to victory for the summer international season. And don't forget, if you're a cricket fan, head to flysafair.co.za today to grab affordable flights to all major cricket venues in SA. Proteas, we wish you all the best. Knock it out the park. FlySafair, for the love of flying.
The Hammers have a mammoth task to find a path to the top half. They target maximum points against the Toffees.
And bungled in by Sensio Somerville, his first West Ham United goal.
Meanwhile, the Toffees have the same predicament. They want out of the bottom half as soon as possible.
It's a cross goal and it's netted by Beto, and Everton have equalised 4 minutes into
This is the Premier League. Catch the exciting clash between West Ham United FC and Everton FC on Saturday 9 November at 4:30 p.m. live on SABC3. Also available everywhere for everyone, always on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
You are listening to the Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane.
6 minutes to 7 here on the Morning Brief. Well, in this age of social media, it's quite common to see people putting up missing person alert posters, missing child alert posters. You see that from time to time. Well, the chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Police, Ian Cameron, says he is concerned by the growing reports that members of the South African Police Service turn people away when they try to open a missing person case. According to Cameron, the committee has in recent weeks been inundated with reports that SAPS members continue to refuse to open a missing person report before 24 hours has elapsed from the start of the disappearance of the person. Ian Cameron joins me now. Good morning to you, Mr. Cameron, and thank you for your time. So I suppose we can start with a point of clarity then. Is there a requirement that police should wait 24 hours before opening a missing person case?
Good morning, thank you. It's such a crucial thing to discuss. So no, there's no time limit whatsoever. It's as though there's this misperception, I'm not sure where it comes from, that it is either 24 hours or 48 hours sometimes that needs to be waited by the complainant regarding a missing person case, and it's just simply not true. The police's own directive clearly states that it needs to be reported immediately and that they must investigate it immediately.
And there's good reason for that, is there not? Because, you know, in legal speak, there's always this mischief that you are seeking to cure when you enact provisions of the law. There must be a reason why there's no requirement to wait 24 to 48 hours. What is that reason?
Well, I think, you know, there are a few things to consider, but let's start with the so-called golden hour. You know, there's a time period after someone is reported missing, and if they are really, missing or have been kidnapped or something of that kind, it is critical to follow it up immediately. The longer you wait, the smaller the chances of recovering that individual. And also, if it is a case of, for example, kidnapping, which is unfortunately on the increase in South Africa, it is absolutely critical for the relevant specialized persons in the authorities or amongst the authorities to immediately start with the investigation process to try and track down whoever the victim might be. So there's just no way that you need to wait. It's absolutely critical. And unfortunately, we've seen before, and it's recently happened in Stellenbosch, where it wasn't taken seriously and where people weren't necessarily taken seriously when they wanted to report such cases. And unfortunately, then it happened that it took much longer to recover a missing person or to assist someone that was in trouble.
To what extent, and from the reports that you've been getting from members of the public battling with this issue, to what extent is it partly informed by perceptions of, police officers at station level, perhaps thinking, this is a person of teenage years and, maybe they'll turn up in a few days or they've gone. Do you get that from time to time in those reports that you receive from the public?
Sometimes it's definitely in the minority of cases. Yesterday I had another report from the Pink Ladies of actually 6 stations, mostly in Gauteng, that had shown people away after trying to report it, and none of those cases were cases of teenagers that were, thought to have been mischievous in some way. And obviously, that must be taken into consideration. But the problem is that in the majority of cases, that isn't necessarily what happens, and at least in the ones that have been reported to the committee. So it's critical that it must be taken seriously. And also, in a country where missing persons as a broader issue is becoming a more prominent problem, it is something that must be seen as a priority.
To what extent is it also do issues of resource availability come into play? In other words, can police at this police station level perhaps put up the argument that says, if I immediately allocate resources to investigating a missing person case who might turn up to be okay 4 hours later, those are resources that I need to respond to a robbery just a couple of blocks away?
Yeah, I understand the question. I think if there was a debate regarding how many cases are actually, false missing person cases in the sense that it might be someone that just decided to take some time off and switch off a phone and disappear for a while, then I'm sure it is a debate that they can have, but it's not up to the station to be judge, jury, and executioner. They need to make sure that they investigate it, and it's also not fair to the public that a police officer can decide when they will investigate such a case or not. That being said, it's crucial also that the public take it seriously and that they understand the responsibility or the risk they take if they were to report something that wasn't accurate and that is for all other purposes fraudulent in some way. So it's very important that if they do report it, they bring the relevant information and that they also don't lead the police on. They need to speak openly, share everything that they have and make sure that they support the police in their investigation.
Ian Cameron, thank you for your time this morning. Let's leave it there. That's Ian Cameron. He's the chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Police. Let's check in now with Ann Musa with the latest news.
Outsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. SMS out to 30754. Now that's good news.
In our top stories, Dalimpofu leaves EFF to join MK Party and Nandipama Gudumana to appeal her extradition. Good morning. Former EFF chairperson Advocate Dalimpofu has joined the Thulasizwe Party. Mpofu joined what was once the third largest party upon its formation in 2013 and served as the chairperson of the Red Berets for 5 years from 2014. His departure marks another blow for the EFF in a series of membership exodus In August, former EFF Deputy President Floyd Shivambu, in a surprise move, left the party also for the almost one-year-old MK party. Mpofu has represented the official opposition in several legal matters in his capacity as senior counsel. Speaking to SABC News in an exclusive interview, Mpofu says he believes the MK party is the only vehicle to achieve unity and emancipation.
After a lot of soul searching, I've taken a decision that I will be joining MK. I'm joining MK because I believe that it is the vehicle through which we will achieve the much needed black and progressive unity. So I'm doing so not necessarily to reject any other organization, but at this point in time, in November 2024, I am of the view that the vehicle through which we should drive that unity is Umkhonto weSizwe.
The Supreme Court of Appeal in Bloemfontein will today hear Dr. Nandipha Magudumana's application to nullify her arrest and extradition from Tanzania. Magudumana is appealing the Free State High Court's decision that dismissed her application to have her arrest last year declared unlawful. In July last year, the High Court found Magudumana was brought back under disguised extradition but dismissed her application, saying she had consented to return to the country. Magudumana's lawyer Machini Mutlong says his client could not have consented to an illegal process.
We had strong belief that the application is meritorious, and the fact that it was dismissed didn't deter us. We've been confident from day one that what transpired in Tanzania had serious elements of unlawfulness, and to come to this stage would ensure that the appellant receives justice.
The Gauteng Education Department says 12 of the 110 learners from Tamaho Primary School in Katlehong remain hospitalized after suspected food poisoning. The learners began experiencing stomach cramps and vomiting after eating samp during break time at school. Gauteng Education spokesperson Steve Mabona says 98 learners were discharged.
We will be monitoring actively this process as the department, working very closely with the Department of Health. We remain committed in ensuring that our children are safe and healthy in our environment. MEC has expressed grave concern over the recurrence of such incidences which are happening in our schools.
The Disaster Management Center in Limpopo says it's working hard to provide relief to storm victims. 4 people lost their lives and more than 2,000 houses were affected. Authorities won the affected areas declared disaster areas. Head of the Provincial Disaster Center, Taki Makananisa, says plans are underway to seek approval.
We have to communicate with National Disaster Management Center, where we write to them and we present and defend our case to say that kindly classify the incident as a disaster. So as we stand, we are on those processes. Since you will recall that this disaster took place 27th and the 28th. So we are still within that short range of time to ensure that these processes are really put into place.
Mpumalanga's Community Safety, Security and Liaison Department has advised travellers to Mozambique to delay their trips due to the tense political situation in that country following last month's disputed election results. Department spokesperson Mueti Musi says the ongoing violent protests in Mozambique are concerning.
But then at the same time, we are advising people who may wish to travel to Mozambique to try and delay, if not postpone, their trips altogether for now, because the situation we have been told from the other side is still tense. There are still some acts of violence from the Mozambican side.
And finally, U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris has officially conceded the election for the presidency to Donald Trump. Speaking to her supporters in Washington, Harris acknowledged their disappointment but said she would engage in a peaceful transfer of power. She said she would continue to fight for the American ideals of democracy.
While I concede this election, I do not concede the fight that fueled this campaign. the fight for freedom, for opportunity, for fairness, and the dignity of all people.
Recapping the top story, former EFF chairperson Advocate Dali Mpofu has joined the Thulasizwe party. Mpofu joined what was once the third largest party upon its formation in 2013 and served as the chairperson of the Red Berets for 5 years from 2014. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
Those were the top stories for this hour. Don't miss out on a possible car insurance saving. SMS out to 30754 for a quote. Outsurance, where you always get something out.
It's Black Friday season again, a time deal hunters across South Africa wait for all year. Switch to Outsurance and you could get mind-blowing savings on your car insurance premiums today. SMS out to 30754 for a quote. If Outsurance can't beat your car insurance premium, ask for 500 Rand cash. And make that 1,500 Rand cash if you've been claim-free and with the same insurer for 3 years. Monthly savings if they are cheaper, or cash in your pocket. It's a win-win for you. SMS out to 30754 to switch and save today. That's out to 30754. Outsurance, where you always get something out. A licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
A reminder to avoid the N14, the Ben Scriven Highway section going into Pretoria this morning. There's a very healthy, very big backlog of traffic queuing now back beyond the EU Theus Road. If you normally take the N14, just push up the N1 a little bit further from Brockfontein, off-ramp at the R21, go in via Fountain Circle. Problem solved. There's a breakdown at Galuli's, N12 and R24. It's coming in from Ekurhuleni. You're looking quite slow. Prospecting getting pretty heavy. The N2 South queuing into the closure at Joiner Road. Routes out through Isipingo and through Prospect inside. Both starting to backlog as well, quite heavy both directions just because of the extra diverting pressures in the region. And then Cape Town Baden-Powell, we can confirm it is closed at 2 locations now. Baden-Powell closed at Monwa BC Beach, that's at the bottom of Khayelitsha due to thick sand, and it's closed at Coastal Park due to thick sand between Strandfontein and Muizenberg. So a lot of disruption and diverts on and off the Baden-Powell drive this morning. And also a collision on the N1 inbound. We warned this might take a while to clear. It's a little bucky that's flowing off the N1 by the Brackenfell Boulevard exit. That queue on the N1 behind that, back as far now as Justenburg. Back into the farmlands on your way to work in Cape Town this morning. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
A very good morning to you. In your SFM sports headlines, we go to cricket with the Proteas batter Reza Hendricks promising vintage Proteas in the India T20 series, and the Springbok women's, their sevens team, are ready for an African showpiece. All the details around 7:30.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
Hey, good morning, folks. You're listening to the Morning Brief here on SAFM. We are into the second hour on this Thursday. Thank you for staying with us. Among the stories that we'll be focusing on within the next 20 or so minutes, of course, the win by Donald Trump in the United States, how America's president number 45 also became its president number 47, POTUS 47. Donald Trump stages one of the most remarkable political comebacks to reclaim the White House. But our main focus will be the implications for the rest of the world, especially the rest of the African continent and South Africa in particular, what with the focus on America first that is expected to be at the heart of Donald Trump's approach, as well as this idea. There's this idea of transactional foreign policy, what here at home we would call Kamina Kawena, right? What's in it for me before I come to the party in terms of the relationship. So we'll unpack what all of that means, as well as some of the significant partnerships that South Africa and the rest of the continent enjoy with the United States. That's coming up in a moment, as well as a focus on what the Minister of Public Works and Infrastructure, Dean McPherson, as well as the MEC in KwaZulu-Natal and others are trying to do with buildings that when I read the speech of the minister, he says buildings that government does not really need. You and I know about those buildings that become abandoned and then are taken over and hijacked. So they're doing something about that, and we'll tell you about that within this half hour. I do need to remind you of this, and it's really important, and I look forward to it. I will be there. SAFM invites you to our annual public lecture, and this year it will be delivered by the former Minister of International Relations, Dr. Naledi Pandor. The theme for this year is 30 years of South African democracy, reimagining South Africa's democracy achievements, challenges, and the road ahead in protecting our democratic gains. An apt theme and coming at the right time indeed as we mark 30 years of democracy. The lecture will take place on the 21st of November 2024, and it will be at the Birchwood Hotel and Conference Center in Boksburg here in Gauteng. But you can secure your seat there and ensure that you are part of that lecture by sending us an email, and the email there is info@safm.co.za. Leading the conversations that move us. We're starting the third hour of the morning brief.
Are you blowing your paycheck on car insurance every month? Monica, 39 from Three Rivers, pays just 1,515 Rand a month for a 2018 BMW 320i.
Give our children a call. It's a win-win. You can't lose.
Real savings, real benefits. Here's Yusuf.
Help it out. The service was quick. Absolutely phenomenal service from our children.
SMS out to 30754 now. That's out to 30754. Outsurance is a licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
Oh, what a shot! That's clean out of here. FlySafair is headed for 6 as the new official domestic carrier of Proteas cricket. We're thrilled about this partnership and can't wait to fly them to victory for the summer international season. And don't forget, if you're a cricket fan, head to flysafair.co.za today to grab affordable flights to all major cricket venues in SA. Proteas, we wish you all the best. Knock it out the park. FlySafair, for the love of flying.
Festive season is around the corner. Tsaladiti hooray! Unlike most, Paul, I don't sweat going home because I have a Nedbank Just Invest account. So I'll be up this festive season. No borrowing, guys. Even you, Mr. Voiceman.
Must be nice to be you, Mabel. Mara, you can also be like Mabel and earn up to 8.5% interest. Open yours via the Money app in under 2 minutes. See money differently. Nedbank. We're a licensed FSP and registered credit provider. Promo rates apply. Visit nedbank.co.za for more info.
What up, family? It's your boy Ken Key, leader of the new school, leader of the kids. And we are out here, Back to the City 2024. Catch my performance on SABC 1 Mzansi Bo Show.
For all the hip-hop heads, check out the Back to the City special, Saturday 9 November at 8 p.m. only on SABC 1.
Thulasizwe Simelane on SAFM.
All right, let's get into the story then. Donald Trump has won the U.S. election, and his presidency will surely impact on global markets, but also the relationships that the United States has with regions, including the African continent and South Africa in particular. Let's start this focus and speak to Thembisa Fagute, who is a senior research fellow for Africa-Asia Dialogues. Good morning to you, Thembisa, and thank you for your time. So there's this idea that you have advanced and sort of teased out a little bit, transactional foreign policy. Explain what that is and why it becomes a factor after the win by Donald Trump.
I think you summarized it very well when you said that it's Kamina Gawena.
Yeah.
It's precisely what it is. It's a give and take kind of a relationship that will be taking place henceforth. Donald Trump is not just going to help countries, particularly those in Africa, to benefit without getting something tangible back. So we're seeing a business-like politics and foreign policy that will repeat itself, by the way, because it has happened in the past from 2016 to 2020 when he was the president. I think that's going to be happening now. He's been doing that with countries such as Saudi Arabia and United Arab Emirates. I think there's going to be a repeat of it.
Someone listening might say, but that's how, diplomacy works and trade relations work in any case. What makes this a particularly pronounced feature over and above what you can expect in any trade and development partnership?
Well, most European countries and the United States in particular has been very philanthropic in its approach of developing nations. We have US aid, for example, that continues to assist various sectors within our communities in Africa. And it has not been transactional, as has been the case. So there's been a lot of sponsorship during the days of the struggle and post-apartheid, where richer nations have been very involved in trying to assist the developing nations. But I think it's going to be the end with Donald Trump. Donald Trump will expect something back in whatever it is that he's going to be investing politically and otherwise.
And from his first term, Tembisa, one of the things we know about Donald Trump is that he doesn't hesitate to withdraw from, a structure, an agreement, at international level if he believes it doesn't work for the U.S. The climate change, the Paris Accord is an example. The Iran nuclear process is also another example. But more relevant for us, what could be the implications of that ability to switch just like that for such development partnerships as the Africa Growth and Opportunities Act? And just the other day I saw a PEPFAR vehicle driving on the highway, and I was reminded that that's another important element of that interaction with South Africa.
Yeah, I think they're going to leverage the AGOA. AGOA is going to be one of the main foreign policy vehicle, particularly in Africa, in terms of advancing their own foreign policy. The American foreign policy is going to be inward-looking, whatever that means. In other words, the domestic foreign policy is going to drive, by and large, and dictate how America moves henceforth. So there's going to be withdrawal. There's not going to be any expansion, as far as I'm concerned, of further involvement and infiltration into Africa. And that will certainly impact on us, because Africans, South Africa in particular, we are addicted to American goods and services. We can't really survive without American goods and services. All of us wake up to WhatsApp and Facebook. That's our first point of call before we start the day. So if that it becomes part of his transactional politics, we know that one of the persons who's likely to join his cabinet is Elon Musk. If that happens, it's going to be very hard for Africa. We'll start paying for things that we're not paying for before. Elon Musk has also indicated something similar. So all of these free things that we've been getting, I anticipate that we might just start getting tax for them by the United States. There's not going to be freebies anymore, including some of these social media platforms that have since, by the way, indicated that they'll start charging. And the days of having free cloud on Yahoo and others, also that might just come to an end.
All right, let's leave it there for this morning. Thank you for your time and your insights. That's Tembisa Fagute, who is a senior research fellow for Africa-Asia Dialogues. Let's bring in Professor Andre Roux, who is an economist at the Stellenbosch Business School. Good morning to you, Prof. Let's pick up the conversation where I left it off with my previous guest, but also focus on the issue of tariffs. Donald Trump, during the campaign, revealed that his favorite word in the dictionary is tariffs. What are the implications thereof for the U.S. economy? Because I believe they try to point out, those who were interviewing him, that it will not just hit the people you are hitting with tariffs, it will hit the U.S. as well. But what are the implications then for the U.S. as well as the rest of the world?
Yes, thank you. Good morning. Good morning to your listeners. I think it's becoming very clear that one of the major reasons for his victory is about the economy. Hence the very big support from so-called lower middle income and even the working class in America. And that's going to be his focus. He's going to be inward-looking, as your previous speaker said, America first, make America great, etc. So, amongst others, that does mean, and we saw it from his previous term, that he wants to protect local industries. To quote him a few years ago, protect America against the ravages of foreigners, especially China, stealing our goods, etc. So that would certainly suggest a raising of tariffs and other forms of import protection. Now, interestingly, as you're kind of suggesting, amongst others, that could result in higher prices for Americans. That could result, obviously, then in a slowdown in the drop in inflation. Inflation might move upwards. And that, in turn, could postpone further interest rate drops in America. which is probably one of the reasons why the dollar strengthened yesterday. Anticipation that interest rates might remain high for longer. Regarding Africa, I think, let's be honest, in many ways, Trump is indifferent towards Africa, almost agnostic. I don't think it's such a big deal for him. I think he'll be more concerned about relationships with China, obviously, where we're already seeing signs of almost an economic Cold War. And then also interesting will be his view regarding Ukraine. There are indications he might reduce or even remove any military-related aid to Ukraine. And that could set the cat amongst the pigeons in the rest of Europe.
Yeah.
So relations with Europe are going to become rather strained. Overall, a rather turbulent scenario.
Talk to me about that expected relationship with China and factor in, the intersection between diplomacy and the economy and how the economy is conducted. Many African countries have a lot of economic cooperation and perhaps at some levels political cooperation with China. If that dynamic of a tension between him and China plays out, how does Africa, South Africa, BRICS and the likes get sucked into that?
Well, certainly. I mean, if China, as a result of Donald Trump imposing even higher tariffs on Chinese goods, if that damages or somehow compromises the Chinese economy, the implication by derivation that compromises economies of Africa, as you're quite rightly saying. China is one of our major, if not the major destination for natural resources. And we've seen in the last 20 or more years a very clear link between growth in China, that impact on natural resource prices, and then growth in Africa. So by implication, if China's economy suffers, then African economies also suffer. Again, I must point out that Donald Trump is more inwardly focused. He's more concerned about his own economy and also promises kind of made regarding immigration. So don't be surprised if we see mass, almost forced removals of so-called illegal immigrants. All in all, the economy of America might not be compromised, but for the rest of the world, we're looking at a very turbulent place. And now the difficult choice that politicians have to make across the planet is, do we toe the line? Your previous speaker mentioned AGOA, which of course essentially means that countries in Africa are exempted from import duties into America for selected goods. But America calls the shots there. So if Donald Trump feels that an African country is not supporting America, they could very easily remove that country from the list of AGOA countries.
Yeah. All right. Thank you for your time and your insights this morning. That's Professor Andre Roux, who is an economist at Stellenbosch Business School.
There's never a dull moment when South Africa share the cricket field with India. Africa takes on Asia at the battleground of Kingsmead in Durban. What is summer without cricket? Catch the thrilling first T20 international action between South Africa and India on Friday, 8 November at 4:30 p.m. live on SABC3 and 5 p.m. on Radio 2000, with reports on various SABC radio stations. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
Insurance are experts in what they do.
They get to understand what type of business are you doing so that they can insure you properly.
It actually validates why we're with them. If you haven't called Outsurance yet, what are you waiting for?
Switch to Business Outsurance today and you could get a massive 20% discount on your business insurance premium. SMS quote to 43328. That's quote to 43328 to switch and save today. Licensed insurer and FSP. TCs and information online.
What up, family? It's your boy Ken Key, leader of the new school, leader of the kids. And we are out here back to the city 2024. Catch my performance on SABC 1 Mzansi Bo Show.
For all the hip-hop heads, check out the Back to the City special, Saturday 9 November at 8 p.m. only on SABC 1.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane.
26 minutes after 7, let's bring you this story. The Minister of Public Works and Infrastructure, Dean McPherson, and the KwaZulu-Natal MEC for Public Works and Infrastructure, Martin Meyer, have signed a memorandum of understanding to collaborate on addressing issues surrounding public buildings. During the signing ceremony, the minister also announced a list of properties that will, in the coming months, be made available through a request for proposals process to potentially attract private sector investment. Minister McPherson joins me now to take that conversation forward. Good morning to you, Minister. So what does this memorandum of understanding provide for with regard to these buildings, particularly in the areas around eThekwini?
Good morning, Thulasizwe. Excuse me, to you and your listeners. It also included the mayor of eThekwini, Cyril Kaba, who joined us and also signed the agreement. And it has been 2 months in the making, where we agreed that there are a number of bad buildings, problematic buildings, vacant land that both the national department and provincial department owns within the municipality that have really contributed to urban decay, crime, and the lowering of property values. So what we said is that we will work together. We'll create a work stream that would identify the very worst buildings and then actually start to either repackage them or take them to the market for private sector investment. Now, this has never happened before, where we have 3 spheres of government working on a particular issue like this. And we've seen that when it is left unchecked, the problems that it creates. So the MOU establishes the rules for us to work together. It also establishes the rules in what kind of properties we are looking at, what each government brings to the table in terms of opportunities for the private sector, and then how we will then take those to market in a consolidated matter and consolidated way, so that the private sector are able to look at the entire value proposition in eThekwini and not just sort of on a building by building basis.
But what is the scale? What is the potential scale of all of this? In other words, how many buildings are potentially within this sector, within what you're looking at?
We've identified over 80 buildings available. I mean, they are substantial in nature, and they offer every opportunity from residential development to commercial development, and also to exchanges through government and to other entities that may want to use them. I think one of the most noticeable ones would be for anyone who lives in Durban, when they drive along the M4 into town, the vacant SAPS barracks, which has been effectively stripped of everything and has been in that state for the last 5 years. It's a substantial property and building portfolio there that will be taken to the market, which could be very catalytic in the inner city regeneration that we're looking at. So we're not just we're not just looking at sort of offering small little houses or small pieces of land. We're looking at substantial buildings and substantial land offerings that could really make a big difference.
Does it include the old airport, the old Durban airport?
Well, that's owned by Transnet, so
okay, that's
I wish I owned it, because I promise you it would be on the market by now. And we're also looking at properties around the port that we can offer to the logistics industry, so that they can build up capacity. And this is really about saying to Thulasizwe, the state doesn't have to own everything. That we can rationalize what we own, that we can actually act as a portfolio manager that generates income that we can use in the social infrastructure space, on schools, hospitals, and police stations.
Very quickly,
Minister. It just
Minister.
costs us billions of rands to hold these properties, and we now need to hand them over.
Very quickly, you're not looking to sell them off, these buildings and properties, are you? Is it a matter of some kind of concessioning with the private sector?
Well, we're going to look at all options to see where from long-term rentals to disposals. That will come out in the request for proposal process.
All right, thank you for that. Minister Dean McPherson there talking to me about the memorandum of understanding they just signed regarding properties in KwaZulu-Natal. Let's check in now with Ann Musa with the latest news headlines.
Good morning. Thanks to us. In the headlines, former EFF chairperson, Advocate Darlin Mpofu, has revealed that he was involved in the formation of the Thulasizwe party. In an exclusive interview with SABC News political editor Mzwandile Mbeche, Mpofu says the decision to form the now official opposition followed the 55th conference of the ANC in 2022, in which party president Cyril Ramaphosa was elected for a second term at the helm of the party. The case of two men accused of killing 5 family members at Ngenjana village in the Eastern Cape resumes today at the local magistrates court, and the Supreme Court of Appeal in Bloemfontein will today hear Dr. Nandipha Magudumana's application to nullify her arrest and extradition from Tanzania. I'll have details on these and other stories at 8.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Here we go, traffic news that you can use most definitely. Avoid the N14, Ben Skuman heading into Pretoria Central this morning. Going to be asked to sit in a heavy backlog up through Euphius Road and on towards that sort of R101 joint. If you've been through it in the mornings before, you'll know exactly what's in store. Come off at Euphius, or better still, take the N1 up to the R21 and reroute through Monument Park and just avoid top end of the Ben Skuman. Really heavy backlogs there. Break down at Galuli's N12 and R24 routes coming in from Ekurhuleni remain slow. Getting pretty hot and heavy around the bottom end of the N2 through Prospecton towards Amanzimtoti. The road's still closed going southbound. So queues on the highway, queues out through Prospecton and on local routes through Isipingo as well. Saw this yesterday, seeing it again today. Wakesley Road through the M7 up to Bel Air, all the way through to Rick Turner, some heavy pressure. The M4 into Durban, queuing up through the Clarewood area. Delays up towards the M7 Bluff exit. Cape Town heavy on the N1 inbound. A crash at Brackenfell Boulevard, pushing traffic way back to Justenburg. And Baden-Powell Drive closed at Monwabisi, that's the bottom of Khayelitsha, closed at Coastal Park, that's the bottom between sort of Strandfontein and Muizenberg. If you use Baden-Powell Drive between the N2 and Muizenberg, you'll be diverted and delayed this morning. With your traffic updates, I'm Rob Byrne.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Good morning to you once again, Zai. So lots of promise coming through from the Proteas ahead of the Proteas India T20 series.
Yeah, they are promising vintage Proteas.
Vintage, you
I don't
say,
know what
yeah?
Dusting off the old tapes. But you know what? They're also bringing big names like David Miller and Heinrich Klaassen. And, these guys can actually hit sixes. So let's hope that this is going to be an exciting 2020 encounter against India. Hopefully Durban's hosting it and the weather behaves and we'll see plenty of sixes. But the Proteas batter, Reza Hendricks, believes there will be a different side. There'll also be, like we said, David Miller, Heinrich Klaassen will come in as a big boost both on and off the field. Let's hear from Reza Hendricks.
A good mix, as you mentioned, a couple of new faces and some guys that's been around. So I think, the mix is really good. It's important for them, obviously, to be exposed to this level, the young faces, the next couple of days and weeks. And, if they get the opportunity, I'm sure they'll be quite keen and eager to get out there and showcase their skills. But in general, very good mix, and hopefully they can learn from it. And obviously, as with guys that's been in the squad, it's again another opportunity for them to show what they're about. And obviously, again, a big series against India.
And you can catch the action live on SABC Sport. Let's go now to more cricket news. Teenage spinner AM Ghazanfar took a career-best 6-wicket haul to dismantle Bangladesh in their first one-day international in Sharjah, as Afghanistan had a 92-run win. The 18-year-old grabbed 6 for 26 in 6.3 overs as Bangladesh crumbled from 132 for 3 to 143 all out after being set a 236-run target. Soccer news: after suffering a shock defeat against Polokwane City just under 2 weeks ago, Mamelodi Sundowns replied with a hard-fought 2-0 win against Rise and Shine in their latest Betway Premiership assignment at Loftus Versfeld last night. TS Galaxy searched for their first win in the Betway Premiership. They picked up a point in that 1-1 draw with Stellenbosch at Athlone Stadium, and this while their coach at TS Galaxy, Siad Ramovic, resigning live on TV. Elsewhere, Arsenal, they fell to a second consecutive defeat as Inter Milan beat them 1-0 at San Siro in the Champions League. Mikel Arteta's side arrived in Italy without Declan Rice, and that was because of an injury in a week where they head to Chelsea in the Premier League, also off the back of a damaging defeat at Newcastle, Rice's absence was felt as the Gunners lost in Europe for the first time this season. Here's Arsenal coach Mikel Arteta.
Well, the worst thing of the night for sure is the result. Because the performance, the attitude, the dominance that we showed against one of the best teams in Europe in this stadium. I haven't seen it, all the games that I watched, but the reality is at the end is the results. And we participated on that because we have many situations that we can resolve much better in front of goal and score at least 2 goals. And then extremely frustrated as well because there are 2 decisions that at the end marks that results and the course of the game.
Staying with the Champions League, Aston Villa had a shock 1-0 defeat against Club Brugge, and Shakhtar Donetsk staging a quick comeback to secure a 2-1 home victory over Swiss young side Young Boys in their Champions League group clash. And finally, rugby. The Springbok Women's Sevens gear up for the Rugby Africa Women's Sevens tournament in Accra, Ghana. Star wing Zandile Masuku, known for her blistering pace, is ready to bring her A game after recovering from an injury that sidelined her before the Singapore tournament. This marks her first African competition, and with all eyes set on victory, the squad's ultimate goal is to secure a spot in the World Rugby Challenger Series. The tournament kicks off this Saturday with the Springbok women facing Burkina Faso, Zimbabwe, Tunisia in Pool A. That's a wrap of your sport on the morning brief. There'll be more top of the hour. I'm Zai Khan.
The Business Update on SAFM.
Sin Dowling, because I'm what the AMA 2000 would call a fossil. I remember a time when they used to say everything keeps going right, Toyota. But you are going to tell us this morning that...
I don't even remember that, Tula.
How can you? How can you? You were not there, were you? But I see that the earnings are not going right for Toyota at this moment.
Not at all, Tulas. The Japanese car maker reporting a 26% decline in net profit for the first half of its financial year. The decline there largely being due to production cuts in Japan following non-compliance with vehicle inspection standards, which resulted in a 4% decline in unit sales. Certification issues also led to halted production, further impacting sales. The car maker has also been struggling to navigate the market shift towards electric vehicles. But the company remains optimistic about its prospects, citing the resumption of operations at its Indiana plant in the U.S. and plans to boost global production to 10 million vehicles per year. Chief Financial Officer Yoichi Miyazaki expressed confidence in the company's earnings power, maintaining its annual net profit forecast for the year. Now, while the somewhat positive outlook boosted Toyota's share price in yesterday's trade, ending in the green on a 6-month basis, the share is down 23%.
And in other company news, why is Pepco warning of hefty impairment costs?
So in a trading update, Tulas, the retailer warned of a 2.7 billion rand hit, writing down for its goodwill, trade and brand names for the 2024 year. The impairment is attributed to an uncertain trading environment affecting its Ackermans, Techie Town and Shoe City businesses. And so it expects full year earnings to be between 6% lower and 4% higher, excluding that impairment. Now, a number of local fashion retailers have been struggling with tough competition, and so analysts are also pointing to increased market penetration by Chinese online players like Shein and Temu contributing to Pepco's challenges. Additionally, consumers throughout the year have been struggling, and that has been a crucial part of Pepco's declining profits. The group cited continued uncertainty in the retail market and a challenging footwear market as key factors behind the impairment. Now, despite this, Pepco has managed to capture additional market share in the cellular and home market, that boosting its top-line growth, with revenue expected to increase by 7.8% to 85.1 billion rands. The fintech division also performed well, recording a revenue surge of over 26% to 12.7 billion rands. Now, markets will get a clearer picture of the company's performance when it opens its books on the 26th of November.
Speaking of markets, I imagine that the win by Donald Trump in the U.S. was one of the major factors at play. How did it all play out?
That's right. So we're starting off with what's playing out this morning, taking a look at Asian markets that are trading mixed today following the broadly positive cues from Wall Street overnight. Traders cautiously weighing the implications of a Trump victory in the U.S. The Japanese Nikkei is down 0.4%, while the Shanghai index gains 1.2%. Over in the U.S., futures are in the green, extending yesterday's gains. Traders there, of course, digesting the election outcome while also eyeing a rates move from the Fed, that decision out later this afternoon. And then back at home, sentiment quite sour with the all share losing 1.5% yesterday. This was driven by a 4% decline in the Resources 10 complex. This, of course, comes as investors start assessing the impact of that Trump victory. The rand, in the meantime, retracing some of its losses. It's now trading at 17.58 to the dollar from about 17.60 an hour ago.
All right, thank you for that. Ndauling, we'll talk to you again one more time in the third hour of the show. And Ndauling Lechela will be back just after 8:30, just before the markets open for trade on the JSE.
Africa Update on SAFM.
For that, let's turn to Advocate Sipho Mantula. Good morning to you, Raz. So Donald Trump has won the White House. He becomes POTUS 47, and the messages of congratulations are flowing from African leaders.
Fresh morning to us and Jumbo Africa to the listeners. Indeed, the message is flowing from Abuja to Harare to Tswane, Addis Ababa, Somalia. Bola Tinubu was saying that they will want to work together in terms of promoting peace, addressing global challenges. Mnangagwa is saying that they are ready to work with them to build a better and a prosperous and a more peaceful world. So also from Guinea-Bissau, Umaru Sisco Mbalo also talking about may this new mandate bring peace and progress. Notwithstanding DRC, Tshisekedi also saying that he wants to deepen their partnership between the two nations. Very strange to us how our African leaders are still bowing to Washington politics.
Yeah. A few days ago, Sipho, I was talking about how there was no drama around Advocate Dumaboko's assumption of the office of president in Botswana and said there was no need for a SADC summit. Unlike the situation with Mozambique, that's coming up, the typical post-election SADC summit.
That is quite true, Tulas, but bit late when they have to address this crisis. 10 days later, the meeting in Harare will be on the 16th to the 20th of November. I saw yesterday even Ronald Lamola engaging with the Foreign Affairs Minister from Mozambique, what we call megaphone diplomacy, trying to say they have to become restraining, people engage peacefully. But Tulas, with the SADC summit that is coming, I feel it is too late. Looking at that, today is a national shutdown. Tulas, we saw how the closure of the border also affected economic trade and as well as the movement of the people. So it is said, Tulas, that we are still looking at Mozambique at this juncture and today being the national shutdown.
Yeah. Let's talk about South Sudan and the peace process there. I see that there's been some engagement between Salva Kiir and the president of Kenya, William Ruto.
Remember that Kenya has been mediating on the conflict between Riek Machar and Salva Kiir. And now, when they met yesterday, William Ruto and Salva Kiir said that within 2 weeks, mediators must be back in Nairobi to engage on the objections of the 2018 peace agreement. Remember, South Sudan was supposed to go to the elections end of this month, end of next month, but they've pushed it to 2025. So it seems both presidents have agreed that there have to be a peace process once more in Nairobi amongst the South Sudanese fighting parties.
And BRICS Plus, again under focus. This time around, we're looking at Ethiopia and its potential benefits from being part of this.
Tulas, this comes from the Russian ambassador to Ethiopia, Terekin, saying that it seems that Addis Ababa will benefit immensely to us, and also their view in the Kazana summit to say that the reform of the global financial system is very important, the role of the African continent in the Security Council. But they are looking at that Ethiopia, it means it will be one of the African countries that will benefit out of this BRICS plus expansion that has been there. Remember, we have Egypt, South Africa, as well as Ethiopia as members of the BRICS plus.
You know, Sipho, I always wonder how you pick these historical events. They're always fascinating. There was a moment on the 7th of November, 1994, and it involved the New Democracy's interaction with its armed forces. Tell me about it.
Remember, 1994 was very important when you talk of military integration of the liberation movements. And it was during the late Defense Minister, Joe Modise, where there were almost 2,221 trainees of MK who were dismissed from the newly formed South African National Defense Force. The issues, as you know, Thulas, were around the conditions, recruits, and that's how we saw Thulas, and that also came from the report that came from the military camp of Valmansdal, north of Pretoria, the issues of conditions in the military camps, and those MK forces being dismissed from the army 30 years later, Thulas, in our archives. Asante Sana, this was still leading the conversation, SAFM.
All right, thank you for that, Raz. That's Sipho Mantula there with your Africa update. One of the stories that Sipho touched on has to do with the protests that are taking place and the unrest, let's call it that, in Mozambique. And you will have seen in the last 2 days reports about the border, Libombo port of entry with Mozambique being either closed or partially closed and partially reopened. Let's get the proper sense of what's happening. Dr. Michael Masiapato, who is the Commissioner of the Border Management Agency, BMA, joins me now to give us an update. Good morning to you, Dr. Masiapato. So just give us a sense of what's happening today. Today is expected to be the day of major protests in Mozambique, with the government promising to crack down on the unrest. What is happening with the border situation at the moment?
That's great. Thank you very much, Thulas. We appreciate the opportunity. Firstly, as you had rightfully indicated, Thulas, yesterday we reached a position with the Mozambican counterpart to partially reopen the port. And the main issue that we're doing was to basically allow the Mozambicans that has been stuck on the South African side to cross through into the port and be processed back into Mozambique. But secondly, to also allow the South African trucks that had been from the Maputo port, they've home and all of those minerals, and they were on the way there, we processed them back into the country. So that is what we've been doing since yesterday afternoon until overnight and until this point. So until this point, I can indicate that we have just spoken to our colleagues that side. They've indicated that things overnight were fairly stable. However, on the basis of what you have indicated, indeed today is considered as the last day, and in terms of their protest, because they were saying that they were going to do it for 7 days. So today is the 7th day, and they're saying they're going to have the last push in terms of the protest, as it were. And therefore, I'm here. I will be meeting with the Port Management Committee, and after that, I will then be meeting with our Mozambican counterpart and be able to assess the developments over the day and ultimately take a final decision whether to fully reopen the port or not. Everything is dependent on the development on the Mozambican side.
I don't believe we've seen this before, Dr. Masiapato, where South Africa closes its borders because of protests happening in another country. And I can give an example of when the protests were happening in Eswatini a few years ago. I don't recall us taking that step. What is the assessment? What is the mischief, the harm we were seeking to avert?
Yeah, you see, I think this is a very good example, because yesterday we actually referred exactly to that. So that's a quick reflection. When it happened in Oshuk, what the Swati government did was to deploy the military on the corridor from the port into the country. And on that basis, there was no any threat. Now, in terms of the situation in Libombo versus Rasen Garcia, is that Rasen Garcia as a port, it is actually surrounded by a town, which is Rasen Garcia, where there are people literally staying there. So what basically the people did is that they took the protest from the city Maputo into Matola and then into Rasen Garcia as a town close to the port. And what ultimately they did, they then advanced into the actual port on the Mozambican side. They banned the offices, they banned their vehicles.
I see.
So when you have that situation, the officials who are supposed to work at the port on the Mozambican side ran into the South African side for refuge. So in that situation, even on the South African side, which is Libombo, you cannot continue to process people.
Right.
You remember, in a land port environment, we work on the principle of reciprocity. If you process people where do they land? They let them land into fire and they can actually lose their lives. That is the reason why we had to do what we did on Tuesday night, Tulas.
Fantastic. Thank you for that update, Dr. Michael Masiapato, who is the Commissioner of the Border Management Authority. I think it's crystal clear what the basis and the assessment was that led to those decisions.
We definitely know what good insurance is. Our insurance don't delay when it comes to any claims. If something happens to one of our vehicles on the road, service delivery is the main thing.
They make sure that you are a satisfied customer from the beginning to the end.
It's definitely a win-win with our insurance.
Switch to Business Outsurance today and you could get a massive 20% discount on your business insurance premium. SMS quote to 43328. That's quote to 43328 to switch and save today. Licensed insurer and FSP. TCs and information online.
Oh, what a shot! That's clean out of here.
FlySafair is headed for 6 as the new official domestic carrier of Proteas cricket. We're thrilled about this partnership and can't wait to fly them to victory for the summer international season. And don't forget, if you're a cricket fan, head to flysafair.co.za today to grab affordable flights to all major cricket venues in SA. Proteas, we wish you all the best. Knock it out the park. FlySafair, for the love of flying.
Svali weekend on a high note with Final Analysis on Sunday night. Tune in to Final Analysis every Sunday night and stand a chance to win a hamper worth 10,000 Rand, courtesy of Diadora and SABC Sport. Final Analysis, the premium wrap-up show, giving you match highlights, final scores, post-game reactions, expert analysis, and sport news weekend roundup of the local and international arena. Catch Final Analysis every Sunday at 8 p.m. on SABC Sport on TTT Channel 4 and 10 p.m. on SABC 3. Also available everywhere for everyone, always on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Hashtag We've Got It All. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Still very heavy getting into Pretoria. The one to avoid this morning, the N14 Ben Schoeman Highway. It's a very impressive backlog back through Euthius Road and sort of working back towards Vrede Road, Snake Valley exit. So come off at Jean Avenue if you're on the N14. Otherwise, stay on the N1, get up to the R21 or Buerta Avenue. Both of those will reach you up into Pretoria without the hassle that is the N14 this morning. N1 both ways to Winnie Mandela, off ramp at four ways, heavily backed up. Still no traffic lights there. And the Mike 1 on your way to Sandton, queues from Boysons to Parktown, and then up through Killarney. Houghton on your way through Melrose, very slow as well. The R21, a little bit of a change up in the roadworks. They're just north of the Bobsfontein exit, up towards the NGen services at Tembisa. If you're leaving the airport, it's a heavy queue this morning again, probably a little bit worse than normal back through the Benoni exit and working back towards the Pomona Road territory. It's a good one to avoid as well. Durban, Southern Freeway inbound, quite slow approaching the CBD. Bel Air Road from the M7 up past Chief Albalatuli towards Rick Turner, very slow. And of course, all sorts of congestion around Prospect, and the N2 South remains closed. Backlogs on the N2, plus Prospect and Isipingo areas extra busy with diverting traffic. Cape Town Baden-Powell, closure at Monwabisi due to thick sand, closure at Coastal Park due to thick sand. There's a lot of disruption between the N2 highway and Muizenberg as you need to divert onto alternative routes and hit some queuing pressure. And driving into Cape Town on the N1 this morning, that earlier collision just by Brackenfell Boulevard with that Bucky flying off the road. It's still a scene. The traffic is back beyond the Eustonburg exit, routes like Brighton Road, Okavango Road and Brackenfell Boulevard, trying to get into the N1 over the bridge systems are very heavily backed up. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
Oh, what a shot! That's clean out of here.
FlySafair is headed for 6 as the new official domestic carrier of Proteas cricket. We're thrilled about this partnership and can't wait to fly them to victory for the summer international season. And don't forget, if you're a cricket fan, head to flysafair.co.za today to grab affordable flights to all major cricket venues in SA. Proteas, we wish you all the best. Knock it out the park. FlySafair, for the love of flying.
Rise and shine. Plan to keep rising and shining with victory to secure a decent top-half spot. But the Rockets are not impressed with their slow start of the season. They believe this is the time to collect 3 points. Limpopo battles it out with Mpumalanga. This is the Betway Premiership. Catch Mzansi's beautiful game, Polokwane City FC versus TS Galaxy FC on Saturday, 9 November at 2:30 p.m. Live on SABC 1 and SABC radio stations. Also available everywhere for everyone, always on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
You are listening to the Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane.
4 minutes to 8 here on the Morning Brief. Experts say the dismissal of teachers who are accused of sexual abuse is not enough because they can get hired in other schools. At least 8 Eastern Cape teachers have been dismissed for sexual misconduct since the beginning of the year. Let's bring into the conversation Leslie Ann Foster, who is the Executive Director of Masimanyane Women's Rights International. Good morning to you, ma'am. I've got to thank you for your time. So talk to me about the understanding that says beyond taking disciplinary action and perhaps dismissal, there is no responsibility on provincial departments of education to actually report cases such as these to the police. Is that the proper understanding?
Absolutely, and I think that the department taking, action is good, but it's what we would call a punitive measure to simply dismiss the teachers, because we know that teachers get rehired in other schools and they continue their sexual predation on young girls, when they move. So the right thing to do is to really report this to the police and have the police come in and do the investigation, make the arrest, and have the perpetrator held to account in a court of law. That is what the normal and correct practice should be. So the department wanting to play, the complete role of the criminal justice system is inappropriate. It is absolutely inappropriate. And in actual fact, they protect these predators, and that's unacceptable.
How common is it that a teacher who is dismissed for sexual predation on young kids, young children in one school, pops up in another school?
It's quite common. We don't have statistics on that because I don't think that's been tracked, but I can tell you that we know of many instances where teachers, in actual fact, when they get caught in another school, then this history of their predation comes up and comes out and is made visible. So it's a really serious issue, and the department needs to take this very seriously. It feels as though the department wants to protect, the perpetrators of the violence on one level, and so just dismissing them is absolutely not enough. There is a criminal justice system in our country. There are rules, there are regulations, there are laws that are very clear about what needs to happen in the case of sexual violence, and the departments are not following that. And I think that's the big issue here. And we know of many, many departments where sexual predators are just let off the hook one way or another, and it's absolutely unacceptable.
Is there a sense in which there's a failure of the sharing of information between the various elements that are involved here, the departments of education, the trade unions that are there, the South African Council of Educators, the National Prosecuting Authorities, and the SAPS? Could there be better coordination that once a person is flagged, they are flagged across the system?
Absolutely, that is what should happen, but it appears as though they, the department will just deal with an issue in a very kind of confined way and not communicate what has happened. Again, this is actually patriarchy at play here, where you actually protect the perpetrator rather than protect the survivor of the violence. And this has to be dealt with better. We're not winning the war in this country because everybody's interpreting the legislation in their own particular way and not following the rule of law. And particularly when it comes to sexual violence, this is what is happening. So we need a tightening of the responses. We need departments to follow the due diligence principles, of the reporting, of getting the investigation done, getting the arrest done, and so forth. Protecting the perpetrator does not help the perpetrator and the survivor, because they're going to be found out sometime later down. But by the time they are found out in a second or third school, the damage is extensive. to these young people in our country. We're failing young people when we take, these punitive measures to address this kind of violence.
All right, let's leave it there. Thank you for your time this morning. Leslie Ann Foster, who is the Executive Director of Masimanyane Women's Rights International. Bringing us to 8 a.m., let's check in with Ann Musa with the latest news. Essential cover from Outsurance pays out claims in cash, allowing you to choose your own panel beater. SMS CAR to 43187 now.
In our top stories, Mpofu reveals details on the formation of the MK party and Nandipha Magudumana to appeal her extradition. Good morning. Former EFF chairperson Advocate Dali Mpofu has revealed he was involved in the formation of the Thulasizwe party. In an exclusive interview with SABC News political editor Mzondi Lembeche, Mpofu says the decision to form the now official opposition followed the 55th conference of the ANC in 2022, in which party president Cyril Ramaphosa was elected for a second term at the helm of the party. Mpofu adds there were engagements chaired by himself for the leaders of other political parties such as the UDM, PAC, ATM and the EFF, among others. Mpofu says there were covert discussions between himself and former President Jacob Zuma.
There was a time when former President Zuma and I were the only people who knew about this project of the formation of MK, because we had discussed after the 2022 conference of the ANC very in depth as to what needs to be done, and we had various options. So this discussion took about 12 months.
Advocate Mpofu, I just need to get you very clear. Were you part and parcel of the formation of Umkhonto weSizwe?
Absolutely.
The case of two men accused of killing 5 members of the Seti family at Ngenjana village in the Eastern Cape resumes today at the local magistrates' court. The case was postponed last week for further investigations. The 5 members of the family were shot and killed 3 weeks ago. The accused, aged between 22 and 30 years, faced 10 counts, including 5 of murder. The Supreme Court of Appeal in Bloemfontein will today hear Dr. Nandipha Magudumana's application to nullify her arrest and extradition from Tanzania. Magudumana is appealing the Free State High Court's decision that dismissed her application to have her arrest in Tanzania last year declared unlawful. In July last year, the High Court found Magudumana was brought back under disguised extradition but dismissed her application, saying she had consented to return to the country. Magudumana's lawyer Machini Mutlong says his client could not have consented to an illegal process.
We had strong belief that the application is meritorious, and the fact that it was dismissed didn't deter us. We've been confident from day one that what transpired in Tanzania had serious elements of unlawfulness, and to come to this stage would ensure that the appellant receive justice.
President Cyril Ramaphosa is calling on law enforcement agencies to act swiftly against those found to use banned substances in food that led to the deaths of children in the country in recent weeks. The presidency says Ramaphosa has been monitoring the work done by various government departments to respond to the tragedy. Presidential spokesperson Vincent Magwenya.
The President is pleased that the Department of Health is leading the effort. All the necessary processes have been conducted. The law enforcement agencies are also attending to the matter. Tests have been conducted. Those that have been concluded have shown the presence of an illegal substance, and the President calls on law enforcement agencies to act with speed in bringing those involved in the utilization of these banned substances that have taken the lives of children to be dealt with within the context of the law, and to be dealt with speedily so that the families can find some closure.
Britain's Prince William says he believes in the multiple possibilities that exist to repair and regenerate the planet. This comes amid the growing risk of climate change. He delivered a short address at the 2024 Earthshot Awards ceremony in Cape Town. 15 finalists competed in 5 categories, namely Build a Waste-Free World, Revive Our Oceans, Fix Our Climate, Protect and Restore Nature and Clean Our Air. The winner in each category bagged a prize of £1 million. Prince William founded the Earthshot initiative in 2020 in search for the most innovative solutions to the world's environmental challenges. The British Royal says the aim of the prize is to champion the change the world needs.
I believe our world can be rich in possibility, in hope and in optimism. That is why the Earthshot Prize exists, to champion the game changers, the inventors, the makers, the creatives, the leaders, to help them build upon the amazing things they've already achieved, to speed their innovations to scale, and to inspire the next generation to create the future we all need.
Recapping the top story, former EFF chairperson Advocate Dali Mpofu has revealed he was involved in the formation of the Thulasizwe party. For SFM News, I am Anne Musa.
And that's the news for this hour. Theft, accident and 1 million rand liability cover, all covered by Outsurance Essential. Get a quote today, SMS CAR to 43187. 48-year-old Zandile loves Outsurance Essential because it's low-cost insurance designed for older cars. For her 2008 Toyota Yaris T3, she only pays 391 Rand a month. With Outsurance Essential, you get up to 1 million Rand liability cover. That means if you cause an accident, the other car could be covered for up to 1 million Rand. Add even more value with the motor warranty, which covers you for mechanical or electrical breakdowns. Get saving with Outsurance Essential for unfinanced cars older than 5 years and valued at less than 130,000 Rand. SMS CAR to 43187. That's CAR to 43187 today. Licensed insurer and FSP. T's, C's and information online.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. The queue into Pretoria on the N14, Ben Schumann, just continues to get sort of worse and worse. Big pushbacks from the R101, which is where you enter the sort of CBD from that junction all the way back through Euphies and back towards sort of Vrede Road, Snake Valley, Trickard Road area. So it is heavy. You want to avoid it, take Boerta Avenue or take the R21 as your alternative routes coming off the M1 highway. Avoid the N14. The R21, heavy from the airport up towards Tembisa. The roadworks on the R21 with double lane closures moving just a little bit further north than the Bapsfontein exit. Mike 1, Boyson through to Sandton, full of traffic this morning. Into Durban we go with some delays coming out of Pine Town. The M13 to Paradise Valley, very slow. M4, Southern Freeway choked up again. You've got the closure of Brook Street going up into the CBD, and you've got roadworks on the Esplanades. It all sort of backs up onto the M4 down towards Congella. Cape Town, earlier crash on the M1 at Brackenfell Boulevard, causing big delays from Justenburg as you come in towards town on that N1. And motorists complaining about very heavy delays on the local diversions around Baden-Powell. Baden-Powell's closed at Monwabisi, bottom of Khayelitsha, closed between Strandfontein and Musenberg through to Capricorn Circle, both of those due to thick sand. And as I say, motorists just complaining about very heavy traffic around that Strandfontein area as you loop up through Lotus River and down through Grassy Park. N2, M5 might come into play as options. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
A very good morning to you. In your SFM Sports Headlines, it's rugby with the Springboks, and they are looking forward to an encounter for the UK tour, and they say there's no room for complacency, and that's according to the centre, Andre Esterhuizen. And we've got the Proteas in action against India in the T20 series, with Reza Hendricks believing there will be a different side come Friday. All the details around 8:30.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
I realized that at the beginning of the second hour, I got ahead of myself and I said it's the third hour of the show. But now this really is the third hour of the show. This is the morning brief on SAFM. It's good to have you with us on this Thursday morning. It's just gone 10 past 8. Don't ever think that the conversations that you and I have on a daily basis are insignificant and don't have impact. They carry a lot of weight. What am I talking about? You will have heard in the news bulletin there with N. Musa, reflections from the presidency. Granted, it's not the president himself, but it's the spokesperson of the president who has the full mandate to speak on behalf of the president. That's Vincent Magwenya there, talking about, you remember yesterday, a few callers were calling in and people sending WhatsApp voice notes saying, where is the president in this situation where children are dying from eating contaminated food, snacks and the likes. So there was that response, and in fact there was a very nice is an understatement, a very powerful front page of the Sowetan, which was also taking the message and driving it straight at the president. In fact, addressing him and saying, Mr. President, these are some of the children who have died from eating poisoned food in recent weeks. In any society, this should be a national crisis deserving of the most urgent and effective public awareness intervention from a government. Yours has been reactive, fragmented, and lethargic. How much longer must this happen under your watch? And then they had the pictures of the 12 children that they were talking about that have died in 1 month. So don't ever think we have no impact in the conversations we have on the show and elsewhere. With that said, I will be taking your calls, and the number to dial 086 000 2032. I'll also take your WhatsApp voice notes on the number 061 410 4107. This is SAFM. We are leading the conversations that move us. The third hour of the Thursday edition of the Morning Brief starts now.
Ever tried to paint a wall with only your brush? Or hung a picture on just a nail and a prayer? The contestants on My Design Rules will be the first to tell you good design starts with the right tools. Tune in to My Design Rules every Sunday at 7 p.m. on SABC3 and stand a chance to win a weekend away in the winning apartment. From beginner projects to expert builds, Buco has the tools and materials you need to get the job done. Ready to kickstart your next DIY project? Begin with Buco.
Buco. Real savings, real benefits. Here's what real clients say about OUTsurance.
My name is Alan. I'm 71 years of age and I live in Douglasdale. I'm paying 554 Rand a month for my 2022 Nissan Magnite.
Want a car insurance premium that'll blow your mind? SMS out to 30754 now for a quick quote. That's out to 30754. It's quick, it's easy, and it could save you hundreds of rands every month. OUTsurance is a licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
Svali weekend on a high note with final analysis on Sunday night. Tune in to Final Analysis every Sunday night and stand a chance to win a hamper worth 10,000 Rand, courtesy of Diadora and SABC Sport. Final Analysis, the premium wrap-up show, giving you match highlights, final scores, post-game reactions, expert analysis, and sport news weekend roundup of the local and international arena. Catch Final Analysis every Sunday at 8 p.m. on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 and 10 p.m. on SABC 3. Also, available everywhere, for everyone, always on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Hashtag, we've got it all. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane.
So a situation of concern in Gauteng. There has been no water in areas of Waterfall, Baklu, Vona Valley, Glen Austin, Midrand, Grand Central, Kyalami. That region of Gauteng has had no water, at least for the last day and into today, still no water. Let's bring into the conversation the ward councillor for Ward 132 in Kyalami and parts of Midrand. That's Annette Depe. Good morning to you, ma'am. I've got to thank you for your time. So tell me about the situation. How dire is the situation in these areas that we've listed?
Morning, Tulip. Thank you for having me this morning. It's quite dire. We haven't had water in some of those areas for up to 5 days. But in Kailami Waterfall, we haven't had water for the last 24 hours. 48 hours. So, with the situation at the Polmit station, we won't have water for at least another 24 hours until the Eskom power failure has been restored, and it's affecting the Polmit system, which is resulting in this crisis we've got at the moment.
So is it your understanding that this is purely technical? It has to do with the ability to pump water versus the water crisis, the grander water crisis that we face as a province?
Yes, that is my understanding after we had an emergency meeting at 12 o'clock yesterday, because unfortunately Joburg Water only let us know Monday night that there was a problem, but they did not let us know how they were going to deal with it. So they didn't come up with a plan on how they were going to deal with it. And I then wrote to the city manager and I asked him to explain to us why this has happened and what measures they're going to put in place. And yesterday, 12 o'clock, they had an emergency meeting where they explained to us somewhat as to how they're going to deal with it. But with the amount of water tankers they have available to themselves, it's not enough to service the whole area.
I can only imagine. Did you say some areas have had no water for up to 5 days?
Yeah.
And the just talk a bit more about the adequacy of the water tanker situation.
Well, if I look at the Region A service delivery group, all the water tankers are currently going into the township. They're going into Ivory Park, Robbie Ridge, and Ditzler. None of them are coming to the DA ward, Ward 132, Ward 112, and Ward 93 and Ward 94. We had to wait until this morning after asking several times, when are you going to bring water tankers? Are our residents going to wake up this morning again with no water? And I understand that there are other areas that have got no water for much longer than us, especially areas like South Hills. But the fact remains is people who live in this area in Ward 132 pay high rates in taxes. They expect water to be given to them.
Do you suspect an element of politics?
Absolutely, Thulas. I think there's an element of politics involved.
Sure.
I'm worried about this tanker contract. I think it needs to be investigated, where the tankers are coming from, who's benefiting from those tankers. But certainly, they tell us that there's no shenanigans going on.
All right.
But not all councillors believe that.
All right, thank you. Let's leave it there. That's Councillor Annette Derpe, who is Ward Councillor for Ward 132 in Kailami and parts of Midrand. It will be interesting and important to hear from the city of Johannesburg. You heard there her belief that there could be some kind of shenanigans and politics creeping in, which would be really, really unfortunate in a situation where people need reprieve. We must point out that we reached out to Rand Water, and they are telling us that they are providing updates on social media platforms and that they have a call center where affected residents can call. Also, they are saying that they are in constant communication with the relevant ward councillors who filter down updates to their constituencies. So that is the update from Rand Water. But I believe also the city of Joburg and those responsible for this portfolio may need to respond to the allegation that the allocation of water tankers is sort of being distributed in a questionable way at the very least.
RB Leipzig believe every football moment counts and they want nothing but a win. Meanwhile, Borussia Mönchengladbach target 3 points as they embark on a journey to escape from the bottom half. This is the Bundesliga. Football as it's meant to be. Catch the nail-biting encounter between RB Leipzig and Borussia Mönchengladbach on Saturday 9 November at 7:30 p.m. Live everywhere for everyone. Always on SABC Plus. Also available on sabcsport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
So why should I use We Buy Cars if I want to sell my vehicle?
Because We Buy Cars buys cars.
But will I get the right price?
Of course. We Buy Cars buys thousands of vehicles and knows exactly what every vehicle is worth. Their buyers deliver exceptional service and pay you immediately.
And how do I know what they'll pay for my vehicle?
It's easy. Visit webuycars.co.za or use the We Buy Cars app. Follow the simple steps and voila, you'll know your car's value in no time. We Buy Cars. Quick, easy, the best.
Are you looking for the best spectacle and sunglass deal? At Specsavers, get a free pair of branded prescription sunglasses up to 3,200 Rand. Affordable eye care, Specsavers. T's and C's apply.
Thulasizwe Simelane on SAFM.
8:20 here on the Morning Brief. You will have heard the leading story on SAFM this morning about Advocate Dalimpofu leaving the EFF to join the Mkhonto weSizwe party. Bringing us all of that, of course, is the SABC News politics editor, that is Mzwandi Lembeche, who joins me now to unpack that conversation. Good morning to you, Mzwai. You can run, but you can't hide. You thought you could. You know, I'm here.
No. I accept that. A very good morning to you, Thulas.
Well done on
speaking to you.
Well done on the conversation with Dalimpofu. Just tell me the main highlights that came out from it. Obviously, him leaving the party. Yeah.
Well, I found it very interesting, Thulas, that he actually was central to the formation of Mkhonto weSizwe party. So that was kind of like, something that struck me as a bit of a surprise. Never mind that, I mean, he's always been with the former president, the leader of the MK party. And he did indicate that, you know what, there are no bad feelings between him and the leadership of the EFF. I think he just felt, well, it was time for him to move on. And then he was saying he feels the vehicle to total liberation and black unity is the MK party. I mean, even when I was trying to press him to say, but the EFF is more similar in terms of what MK is doing. But he said, you know what, at this juncture, so the MK party is the party that he feels should be then attended to. And I think the plan really is to get to expand beyond perhaps the three provinces, which is KZN, Gauteng and Mpumalanga, where their base is a bit strong. So you can see they are targeting other provinces. And I think in this instance, the Eastern Cape and Limpopo.
So is he willing, and I hear you when you say that there are no hard feelings between him and the leadership of the EFF, but did he say anything about whether or not there are push factors? Because I imagine, when Mzwai, that given that he's not the first to leave the EFF, that becomes a prominent question. Did he address that question?
He basically said, and I think I understood he probably didn't want to upset anything. I mean, he basically said, at this time, and you need to decide what is it that you want to use to get to a particular destination. So is the EFF the better vehicle to get to black unity and total liberation? And then he did a lot of soul searching. Is the MK party? And then when he's looking at all of these, so he felt the MK party is the quickest vehicle to get to where they want to go. So, but obviously he was always going to be guarded in how he responded in terms of why there's the push factor out of the EFF. But I guess this is politics, and he's been around. At some point he was ANC, he was EFF, this is now MK.
I wonder if he talked to you about the role that he might play in the leadership structures of Mkhonto weSizwe party, what balancing with his responsibilities as an advocate.
He basically said he's not joining there to be a leader, so he will accept whatever responsibilities that are being assigned to him. But this is what I also sensed, but you don't kill me for this, Thulas, if it doesn't happen. I sensed a man who could possibly pause his legal practice for perhaps some time to dedicate his time to this project. Because I was saying, I mean, even before we went on camera, I was saying, but you are doing very well, so why are you dedicating yourself so much to politics? I mean, it's someone who feels very passionate about this project of black unity, total liberation, decolonization. And then he was saying, so we need to crisscross the country to convince people. And then, and as we're speaking, I then got a sense that I won't be surprised if he takes a break or he slows down on his legal work, because he seems really invested in this project, particularly Thulas, because he actually was central in the formation of the MK.
Yeah.
There are instances where he says it was just him and former President Jacob Zuma who were discussing what needs to be done, even chairing the meetings.
Sure.
Those preparatory meetings of forming this big project. So yeah, clearly that's why I'm saying my sense is that perhaps he could slow down on his legal work to focus on this project.
And that's the importance and the value that you bring to all of this, when the nuances, picking up what's unsaid, but is sort of the subtext to some of these conversations. Tell me about whether or not he expects, and from your conversation, if we can expect more prominent leaders to leave the EFF for Umkhonto weSizwe Party.
That possibility is there. Even some of them, even if they were to leave, they not necessarily going to the Umkhonto weSizwe Party. I think the deal breaker, if I may put it that way, Thulas, is the December conference of the EFF. A lot is at stake. So you are likely to see some movement after that conference. In fact, when this morning, I'm sure you may have seen that tweet as well from Julius Malema, who basically says, you're left with two of your faves now, and then they sing beautifully and they take pictures. I mean, he didn't mention any name, but we know who is known to be a very good singer in the EFF. So clearly, whatever outcome will happen at Nasrec between the 13th and the 15th of December may also decide whether there are other people who are going out. But beyond the EFF, Thulas, as we're engaging, remember, Dalimpofu spans across. I mean, he has been in the NC for 33 years, EFF for 11 years. So he still has relations in all those parties. I mean, you do get a sense as well that the discussions are wide. They are beyond EFF, because there's this big project that everyone is envisaging. I will not be surprised when they celebrate their 1 year anniversary on the 16th if they unveil one or two big fish, not only from the EFF, but even from elsewhere.
So seeking a realignment then of our politics altogether. Did you touch on whether or not Dalimpofu had a conversation with Julius Malema before announcing publicly that he's resigning, and how did Mr. Malema take it?
Definitely. I mean, I asked that question. I was very deliberate, in fact, because I wanted to get the answer, and then he basically said no. The only thing that he did, his chairperson of the branch reminded him that his membership card was lapsing, so he needed to renew it. And then he said, no, that's fine. If it's lapsing now, it's okay. And then he says, I mean, this is what he said to me, Thulas. He said, well, as a courtesy, I mean, I will probably tell him after this announcement. So which means if he will tell him. So Malema picked it up on SABC News, like every one of us. So he will tell him as a courtesy today. But then he went on to say, but anyway, he's not really obliged, because remember, they are comrades. They are not necessarily there to basically, these are my words, not to basically nurse each other, but they work there as comrades. So that's the sense you get when you engage with them.
All right, just on that note, Mzwai, a tweet, a post on X by Julius Malema says, only two more of your favorites remain and the list will be finalized. So let me read it slowly. Only two more of your favorites remain and the list will be finalized. They sing beautifully and are always willing to pose for pictures and sign roll calls, but remember, their souls are long gone. To prevent any potential hurt, it's crucial to heed the guidance of the leadership. We remain standing and are not going anywhere under a criminal syndicate. That is the ex-post that has come from Julius Malema at 7:20 this morning. So read into that what you may. Mzwai, finally, it's an exclusive, of course, with Dalimpofu breaking that story on SABC News. When and how can people catch it?
It's on all our platforms, radio, television, digital platforms. I think it's uploaded now, and I'm sure people will easily access it now.
Well done once again. Don't be a stranger to this show.
Certainly.
Mzwali Nabeje
Absolutely, my brother.
is the SABC News political editor there with that exclusive conversation that he had with Dalimpofu, during which he revealed that he was leaving the EFF and joining the Umkhonto weSizwe party. At 8:30, let's check in with Ann Musa with the latest news headlines.
Good morning. Thanks to us. In the headlines, former EFF chairperson Advocate Dalimpofu has revealed he was involved in the formation of the Umkhonto weSizwe party. Mpofu adds that there were engagements chaired by himself for the leaders of other political parties such as the UDM, PAC, ATM and the EFF, among others. The Libombo border post separating South Africa and Mozambique in Komati-Poort in Mpumalanga remains partially open. This is to allow Mozambicans and South Africans close to the border to cross back home. And Germany's three-part coalition has collapsed after ministers from the Free Democrats quit the government. I'll have details on these and other stories at 9.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Well, very heavy still on Pretoria's N14, Pretoria CBD bound. If you're coming up from Centurion Midrand, you're on the N1, get to Brockfontein and then reroute up either Boerta Avenue or the R21. Stay off the N14. It's queuing heavily, whale back past the Eupheus and back down towards Snake Valley, Vereda and Trickard. It's a heavy backlog. Pretoria bound this morning on the N14, really heavy. The R21, the roadworks moving just north of Bopsfontein Road, now up towards the Engen services opposite Tembisa. Traffic's backed heavily to the R23 Benoni exit. 2 lanes are closed there for motorists coming out of the airport direction Pretoria. That's very heavy. It's going to queue all day on the N2 south towards the closure at Joiner Road, bottom of Prospect, and it has been queuing since early this morning. Side roads are busy, but the key with this is to avoid travel when the peak rush hour volumes are in the mix. So from 3 p.m. until probably 8 p.m. Where possible, avoid going from Durban through that sort of Prospect and corridor, Prospect and Isipingo, trying to get towards Toti. Go earlier than that to get through sort of a little bit easier. Major delays just outside Cape Town on the N2, Botrafia through to Caledon. You'll be waiting around forever at multiple stop-go controls. There, crash on the M1 inbound happened at 5:30 this morning at Brackenfell Boulevard. Traffic still very heavy from the Joostenburg area, and Baden-Powell closure at Monwood BC. That seems to be okay in terms of diverts, but the other closure because of SAD is at Coastal Parks. A lot of traffic backlogging in the Strandfontein area, and then having to loop around sort of Lotus River and Grassy Park to get in and out of Muizenberg. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Zai, focus on rugby. Andre Esterhazen says there's no room for complacency during this UK tour.
Oh, yeah. I think it's...
That's not their style anyway.
No. Confidence is sky high. But yes, complacency is also not, because, I mean, even the best, like the Springboks, they don't want to trip over their own egos. So, yes, they will be ready. They will be able to be back in action for this encounter. It's a 3-test tour of Britain, facing Scotland, England and Wales in their own backyard over the next 3 weekends. The World Cup, the champion status, as well as being rugby championship. They've dominated that this year. South Africa steps into the series as firm favourites, but centre Andre Esterhazen warning against complacency as the Boks take to the field at Murrayfield on Sunday, first against Scotland.
Yeah, well, it's a different team, different environment. So, yeah, I've obviously been fortunate to play them twice this year. They're a class outfit, and like you said, they obviously make up the bulk of the squad for Scotland, but also when they put on that jersey, they're also different players, and they play a different style of play, different rugby, and it's also a different mentality as soon as you start playing international rugby. So, yeah, we're expecting a good fight this weekend.
Cricket action. The Proteas batter Reza Hendricks believes they will be a different side with some of the senior players returning, and that's for the upcoming 4-match 2020 international series against India. Since losing to the Indians in the T20 World Cup final in June this year, the Proteas have lost 4 of 5 T20 matches against West Indies and Ireland, although the series has seen coach Rob Walter introduce fresh faces into the fold. Hendricks says the return of big hitters like David Miller and Heinrich Klaassen will definitely add to the flavour.
Yeah, obviously there has been a couple days of rain, but hopefully the weather stays the way it is and clears up come Friday. But yeah, our squad, we're obviously quite happy with our squad, and as you mentioned, a lot of fast bowlers, some key names, and Janssen and Gerald that's back. So yeah, we're obviously looking forward to it against India. It's always exciting to play against them. So it's going to be a challenging series. Yeah, and we're looking forward to it, and hopefully we can start well.
Moving to tennis action, China's Zhang Qiwen reached the semi-finals of the WTA finals in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, claiming an impressive 6-1, 6-1 win over the Italian fourth seed Jasmine Paolini. The Paris Olympic champion Qiwen finished second in the purple round-robin group behind the top seed Aryna Sabalenka. Sabalenka secured her semi-final berth by also beating Paolini 6-3, 7-5. Now, Elena Rybakina rounded off her campaign with a 6-4, 3-6, 6-1 win over Aryna Sabalenka in a match rendered a dead rubber due to both players already knowing their respective fates. And finally, athletics. The Comrades Marathon Association announced an increase in the total prize purse by 10%, pushing the record-breaking amount to over 7.6 million rand.
That's what I was waiting for. I'm winning it now.
Yeah! This is the winner's circle. Now, the men and the women's races, the winners, they stand to take home 874,000 rand each, with an added bonus of 550,000 for breaking the current down-run record. Now, in a move to keep the event accessible, entry fees are remaining the same as last year, and plus there's a relief fund for up to 50% of fees for runners facing financial challenges. So entries open today for the green number runners, and the window for all participants will follow on the 13th of November, closing by 9 December. And the race will kick off on Sunday, 8th of June 2025 from Pietermaritzburg City Hall, finishing at Durban's People's Park. That's a wrap of your sport on the Morning Brief. There'll be more sport on SF around 12:30 with John Hediker. I'm Sai Khan.
The Business Update on SAFM.
Let's turn to Ndauleng Lichela once more. Ndauleng, so it was only a matter of time before the temporary closure of the border and perhaps constriction of the flow between Mozambique and South Africa began to hit our economy. You are telling us that is beginning to happen.
That's right, Silas. And delays at the Lebombo border post into Mozambique due to those violent protests has disrupted South Africa's mineral export route, resulting in daily losses of millions of rands. Now, this has been sparked, of course, by a disputed election outcome and has led to unrest on the Mozambican side of the border, which initially prompted the official closure of the port. The latest reports say it is partially open. This route is imported for exporting minerals like coal, chrome, and magnetite. Every hour of delay costs 1,000 rand per truck, while Panamax vessels incur hefty demurrage fees per day. With no alternative routes available due to widespread unrest, the situation is dire to us. Now, analysts warn that if the disruption continues, it may push chrome prices higher, affecting China, the primary consumer. Industry experts, including Barbara Moorman, was quoted in a News 24 article emphasizing the impact of uncertainty and the risks it then poses on supply chains. Authorities are working to fully reopen the border post as soon as it is safe.
So it's clear that the American markets loved the fact that Donald Trump won the election, but you're telling us this morning that emerging markets, not so much, or at least not for now.
not for now, it seems, to last. The US presidential election still top of mind, and we're already seeing its impact on emerging market currencies. Historically, emerging market currencies have experienced big price movements around election day, with their performance influenced by the outcome. A Republican victory tends to favor tax cuts and deregulation, boosting business growth expectations in sectors like oil, defense, and banking. This in turn can strengthen the US dollar, potentially generating pressures on EM currencies. And this is what we've been seeing playing out with the rand, which is often used as a barometer for sentiment on emerging markets, losing more than 2% and trading around the 1780 level yesterday. The losses weren't limited to the rand, with Eastern European currencies also recording losses, and the Mexican peso, which is particularly vulnerable to Trump trade policies, initially slumped 3.5% but later edged higher in a volatile session. Now, these moves resulted in the emerging market currency gorge experiencing its worst day since February last year. While we've seen a bit of a recovery in currency markets this morning, risk still remains. Analysts expect the dollar to strengthen further as more details are released on plans to add tariffs on imported goods, which would put pressure on EM currencies.
All right, just ahead of the opening of trade, what kind of a day can we expect today?
Now, as that election, remains top of mind, the JSE is likely to open in the red to us, just following its global peers. Traders will also be eyeing company earnings from Sappi and Lasaka Technologies. In currency markets, the rand slightly strengthening as the dollar rally takes a breather this morning. It's trading at 1760 to the greenback. In the US, futures comfortably in the green, investors digesting the Trump victory while awaiting a Fed rate decision, with markets penciling in a 25 basis point cut come later this afternoon. And then in Asia, those stocks are on track to end the day mixed, assessing the impact the Trump presidency will have on that region.
All right, thank you for all those updates. That's Ntauling Lechela. She's back with you one more time. She's back with you tomorrow, giving you updates on the economy, business, as well as the markets here on the show on The Morning Brief.
Big stories of the day. #The Morning Brief.
All right, so an extraordinary story is playing itself out. You will have heard the conversation with the councillor in the areas around Midrand that we had earlier on about the water cuts. Part of the problem is attributed by Rand Water to a power trip at the Palmet station, and that was the statement that came through from Rand Water, Johannesburg Water to be specific, Joburg Water, saying that due to low inflow levels as a result of the Eskom power failure at Rand Water's Palmet system, some Johannesburg Water systems have been affected. So that was what Johannesburg Water was saying. But I'm telling you now that Eskom is disputing that. Eskom has come out saying that they wish to clarify that no power failure has been detected on their network that would impact the Palmet station, as per the recent statement by Johannesburg Water. That is what Eskom is saying. In fact, if you read the statement, it says, following a thorough internal investigation, our technical teams have confirmed that all power infrastructure serving the area is operational and functioning within normal parameters. So that is what Eskom is telling us at this point. So we are trying to see if we can get an Eskom representative. In fact, I'm told by the team that we do have an Eskom representative. Let me just check on that. All right, let's speak to the Eskom spokesperson. Daphne joins us on the line. Daphne, good morning, and thank you for your time. So what is the situation? Clarify. According to Joburg Water, the reason why there's that power, the water disruptions in the areas around Midrand is that there was a power trip involving your station, substation close to Palmet. What's the situation?
Thanks to us, and good morning to you and good morning to your listeners. So, yeah, as our statement says that there was no issue on our side, and recently we haven't been experiencing any power outages from the Palmet power station. And maybe just to also clarify that on the 18th of October, Rand Water experienced abnormalities in one of their engine rooms, which they requested that, which made them to change their operating models. But that was obviously a temporary measure. But then that resulted in one of their transformers overloading, which we then informed them that they needed to reduce load, which they temporarily did so. So on the 6th of October, on the 6th of November, at just in the early hours, just around 12:25, then Rand would experience an issue at Palmit Station with their own breaker having failed. And they told Eskom that due to that failure of that breaker, they will only be able to pump about 80% of their load. And this was indeed the issue that happened yesterday. And at about 19:53 last night, they managed to replace that breaker and managed to pump back water. So this issue had nothing to do with Eskom because, as I said, that as we said even on our statement, that from our side everything was we didn't have an outage, and we always work with Rand Water. If they have issues, we promptly respond to any issue. But in this case, there's no issue that has necessitated all the issues or the water issues that a Midrand area is experiencing. So whatever issue that happened yesterday was because of the breaker failure from Rand Water side.
So just to be sure, you mentioned this abnormality in one of Rand Water's engine rooms, and then following that, you're saying Rand Water was informed that they needed to reduce the load as a temporary measure. Who informed them that they needed to do that? Was it you as Eskom?
So as Eskom, as I said, that as Eskom we work closely with Rand Water. So after they've experienced issues at Palmit, they then changed their operating model. But that then made one of their transformers to overload, and we informed them that their transformer is overloading. Now, to avoid issues on that transformer, what they did is they reduced the load on that transformer. That was on the 18th of October. But then yesterday they had another issue, early hours of the morning, which meant that they could only pump about 80% of their load up until they fixed that breaker. And that breaker was fixed at around, as I said, 7 minutes to 8 last night.
Yeah. So if you're saying that the lines of communication between yourself and Rand Water are that open, and they consistently are, why do you believe that Johannesburg Water would come out with a divergent message on this?
I'm really not sure, because it's very disappointing that they do that, because they could actually, because they work with Rand Water, remember, but they could also, approach us if there's any issue that they were not sure about, that we could have cleared with them. But for them to go and issue a statement and blame Eskom, I think it's not fair.
Have you taken it up with them to try and clarify directly with them, and perhaps needing to bypass your usual partner, Rand Water, and go directly to Joburg Water?
We'll do so today. We'll contact them, but as you have seen, we issued a statement yesterday to correct the statement that they issued, which was incorrect.
Lastly, Daphne, you mentioned two issues that have arisen around the pump station of Rand Water in that area near Palmit. Is there anything on your side as Eskom? I understand that you're saying on both occasions it came from part of their systems, leading to an overload on the substation. Is there anything on the transformer? Yes. Is there anything on your side that you can do to assist them such that the load is manageable, given the difficulties with water that Gauteng is already experiencing?
Yeah, look, we are working with them to see if there's anything that we can do from our side. As I said, that we really work closely with Rand Water, just to ensure that the public is served with or gets the correct service at the end of the day, so that, whatever issues that have where we can help, we do help. So we still continue to work with them because that operating model, it's still, they're still working around that temporary operating model.
All right.
So we continue working with them, and we continue working with any organization or institution out there, really to make sure that that we improve our service delivery, whether it's the service that we provide or the service that is provided by any other institution out there.
All right, I've got to thank you for your time this morning and responding so promptly when we reached out. That's Stephanie Mkwena, who is the Eskom spokesperson, addressing the misconception, at least as far as Eskom is concerned, that the water outages in areas around Midrand have anything to do with any power trip on the Eskom system, saying absolutely not.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
The two big standout queues on Gauteng's highways remain Pretoria bound. The N14 is one to avoid this morning. Very heavy lining up into the city centre. That's on the Ben Schoeman section after EU fees right up towards the R101. Avoid it. If you're on the N1, take Botha Avenue or the R21 as alternative routes to get in to central Pretoria. The R21 coming away from the airport, ORT, direction Pretoria. That's a heavy queue this morning. Roadworks with a couple of lanes closed just north of the Bopsfontein exit as they move up towards the NGN services. Durban, obviously the big story there is the closure of the N2. It's fairly heavy traffic on the N2 down to the closure of Joyner Road, and then the routes through Prospect and Isipingo remain quite heavily backed as well. Coming out of Pietermaritzburg, always worth checking the run to Durban. It's fairly clear at this stage, no major problems. Cape Town, two closures of Baden-Powell at Monmouth-BC Khayelitsha. Traffic seems to be managing there, but not coping at all well on the Strandfontein-Muizenberg section. Baden-Powell again closed because of sand at Coastal Park, so routes like Baden-Powell into Strandfontein, Spine Road to Strandfontein, then Strandfontein Road up through Lotus River and looping around through Grassy Park. It's just a lot of congestion as motorists have to hit those alternatives. And if you take the N1 into Cape Town, there's this crash at Brackenfell Boulevard. Been there all morning. Traffic stays very heavy on the run in from Kraaifontein. A crash at Monte Vista is your second backlog. That's pushing queues back to N1 City. And then once you get past that, it's just a really busy Thursday from Century City all the way in to the elevated freeway area. And if you're driving Eastern Cape a little bit later today, the N2 between Makanda and Fish River Pass will be closed for blasting. They've got it down from a sort of 3-hour window to about a 1-hour window, so 4 p.m. until 5 p.m. this afternoon. Blasting just on the eastern side of Grahamstown, and that's likely to have you diverted to the R72 or stuck in some traffic. I just want to update that time there. The blasting is 3 p.m. until 4 p.m. So 3 p.m., 4 p.m., Makanda through to Fish River Pass. Full closure of the N2. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
Oh, what a shot! That's clean out of here.
FlySafair is headed for 6 as the new official domestic carrier of Proteas cricket. We're thrilled about this partnership and can't wait to fly them to victory for the summer international season. And don't forget, if you're a cricket fan, head to flysafair.co.za today to grab affordable flights to all major cricket venues in SA. Proteas, we wish you all the best. Knock it out the park. FlySafair, for the love of flying.
Rise and shine. Plan to keep rising and shining with victory to secure a decent top-half spot. But the Rockets are not impressed with their slow start of the season. They believe this is the time to collect 3 points. Limpopo battles it out with Mpumalanga. This is the Betway Premiership. Catch Mzansi's beautiful game, Polokwane City FC versus TS Galaxy FC on Saturday, 9 November at 2:30 p.m. Live on SABC1 and SABC radio stations. Also available everywhere for everyone, always on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
This is Thulasizwe Simelane on the Morning Brief.
All right, thank you for staying with us. Let me just quickly remind you of this. SAFM invites you to our annual public lecture, and this year it will be delivered by the former Minister of International Relations, Dr. Naledi Pandor. The theme for this year's lecture is, quote, 30 years of South African democracy, reimagining South Africa's democracy, achievements, challenges, and the road ahead in protecting our democratic gains, end quote. The lecture will take place on the 21st of November 2024 at the Birchwood Hotel and Conference Center in Boksburg. Secure your seat by emailing us at info@safm.co.za, leading the conversations that move us. I can tell you I look forward to that lecture. Let's get an update on a situation that arose yesterday. In fact, let me take a quick call before I speak to the Department of Education about that. Let me take a call from Alex. We haven't had much time to take calls this morning, but let's hear from you, Alex. You want to talk to us about water issues. Good morning to you.
Yeah, good morning, Silas. And I hope you are well. I am blessed. Not wasting too much time. Because that lady from ESCOM also clarified some. But I think at some point we must get sick and tired of people politicizing our problems. That councillor, who's a councillor, by the way, whose responsibility is to make sure that answers are given. Even though she writes letters, but she's telling us that she didn't know that what is wrong with the water problem, and she's a councillor for that. And now she's trying to say that there must be a foul play, the investigation into the tender, and yet we are sleeping day in and day out without water.
Yeah. So you don't believe there's any foul play?
I don't care if there's foul play. I don't want water from my councillor because I have a problem. When there is a foul play, we'll find out about that foul play. I cannot say that I'm going to suspect foul play when even when I have to cook, I have to go somewhere very far to get water. When I have to bath in the morning, I have to go somewhere and get water.
Yeah, so it's a matter of prioritizing.
Yeah, so it's like the priorities are not aligned. It's like we as civilians who are supposed to get service from these people are not necessarily the priority. The priority is finding out who's benefiting from the tenders. That is the priority.
All right, let's leave it there. That's Alex in Karaklen there weighing in on the situation around water and the water shortages. In fact, let me just play a quick voice note on that. Oh, in fact, the voice note will be on the EFF and what's happening there.
Good morning, Thulas. I think hearing the tweet from Julius Malema, the two that is talking about are namely Kyle Niehaus and Mbuyiseni Ndlozi. That is my sense. Thanks. This is Lusuke in the Eastern Cape.
Yeah, let's see what happens. You heard the tweet there from the X post. It's very difficult to say. The X post by Julius Malema about two more that he says remain. Two of your faves remain after Dalimpofu left the EFF. Let's speak to Eunice in Joburg. Good morning to you, Eunice. You want to talk to me about Donald Trump?
Yeah, yes. So earlier on you spoke to your guest and you said that the African leaders are all congratulating Trump. Look, America is a powerhouse there. But let's not forget in 2018 when Trump made that rather disgraceful statement that all countries in Africa are SH1T whole countries.
I remember.
If you recall that.
I remember that.
And he referred to El Salvador and Haiti as the same. Not long ago, he made a ridiculous statement that Haitians in America were eating cats and dogs there. So let's just backtrack quickly to Thulasizwe. When Trump was in power, his complete disdain for international law. The question of Western Sahara has been on the agenda with various UN resolutions. He pushed through and just gave Morocco sovereignty over that on the basis that Morocco opened diplomatic relations with Israel. He did the same he shifted the U.S. embassy, wanted it to be shifted to Jerusalem, and the Golan Heights, which belongs to Syria, there are UN resolutions there. With the stroke of a pen, he's given it to Israel when he was president. So it doesn't, and I think behind the scenes you got to watch there. His real estate agent you got to be keeping an eye on him is his son-in-law Jared Kushner. He's made a ridiculous statement that the Gaza Strip, the front is the land is very expensive and it will make for good real estate thing there, and Palestinians should be put in the Negev desert there, and that area should be sold. Now I'm saying for all for the poor Palestinians, all I can think of is when Zama Masondo to open a PSL match, what does he say?
Zim.
Exactly.
Eunice, I hear you. We can chuckle and laugh about some of these matters, but they're gravely serious. So, in your estimation and calculation, I've seen commentary, when Eunice, that says it's a good thing that Donald Trump will lead to a disengagement to a certain extent from international affairs, international institutions, and is likely to ignore Africa the way that he did previously. You don't share that view, that we should actually be paying attention to how he conducts his foreign policy?
Well, look, with the disdain of international law, what future do ordinary countries have? What future does the oppressed people of the world have? He just goes via, UN resolutions are there, like I explained to you. He does the opposite. And I don't see a future for a peaceful world here with him around. Or it would have been, by the way, many commentators also say that, the Republicans and the Democrats are just different sides of the same coin. George Galloway, by the way, went one step forward. He said they are different cheeks of the same backside, Thulasizwe.
All right, Eunice, thank you for engaging this morning. That's Eunice there in Joburg talking about Donald Trump. And I do realize that we didn't have much time to take some of your calls this morning, but unfortunately it was such a show, as you heard for yourself, that there were so many developments. We'll make it up to you. Tomorrow we'll talk again. That's how we come to the end of today's edition of the Morning Brief. Thank you for listening. News is coming up next. Essential cover from Outsurance pays out claims in cash, allowing you to choose your own panel beater. SMS car to 43187 now.
In our top stories, Mpofu reveals details on formation of the MK party, and Senzo murder trial continues. Good morning. Former EFF chairperson Advocate Dali Mpofu has revealed he was involved in the formation of the Thulasizwe party. In an exclusive interview with SABC News political editor Mzwandi Lembeje, Mpofu says the decision to form the now official opposition followed the 55th conference of the ANC in 2022, in which Party President Cyril Ramaphosa was elected for a second term at the helm of the party. Mpofu adds there were engagements chaired by himself with the leaders of other political parties, such as the UDM, PAC, ATM and the EFF, among others. Mpofu says there were covert discussions between himself and former President Jacob Zuma.
There was a time when former President Zuma and I were the only people who knew about this project of the formation of MK, because we had discussed after the 2022 conference of the ANC very in depth as to what needs to be done, and we had various options. So this discussion took about 12 months.
Advocate Mpofu, I just need to get you very clear. Were you part and parcel of the formation of Thulasizwe?
Absolutely.
The widow of the slain anti-gang unit, Detective Charles Kenya Nicolette, has bemoaned that she was not informed of the declassification of the IPID report on the circumstances of her husband's murder. Kenya, who investigated several high-profile cases linked to the underworld in Cape Town and elsewhere in the country, was gunned down in 2020. Yesterday, IPID announced it's declassifying the report. It was classified in 2022 in an effort to protect sensitive information. The case is currently before the Western Cape High Court. Nicolette says it's highly regrettable that the family has not been kept informed.
I want to express my disgust at how IPID handled it. We as a family were not informed about the briefing. I attended because I'm in media as well. And then to have the arrogance to say that it's more important for the nation to know before we as a family needs to know. I lost my husband. My children lost their father. How dare they say that the nation has the right to know before we do?
The defense in the Senzo Mehiwa murder trial is expected to begin cross-examination of lead investigating officer Bongani Gninda when the case resumes in the Pretoria High Court this morning. 5 men are on trial for the 2014 murder of the Bafana Bafana captain. Mehiwa was shot dead while at Kili Kumalo's parental home in Vosloorus on Gauteng's East Rand. Brigadier Gninda believes all the 5 accused before court were involved in the murder. Paul Magubane reports.
Brigadier Gninda previously testified that they were initially looking for 2 suspects, with accused 1 Muzisibiya and 2 Bongani Ntanzi as persons of interest. Gninda says it was the confession of Ntanzi following his arrest that shed light on the alleged role and involvement of the other accused. Brigadier Gninda says while accused 3 Mthobisi Mncube was arrested for a different matter, they believe the murder weapon he was found in possession of is the one used to kill Mehiwa. The defense is expected to question Gninda on his evidence in chief.
Heavy rains and subsequent floods have left residents of Greens Farm in Port St. John's in the Eastern Cape counting their losses once again. Some of their belongings have been badly damaged. Residents are demanding the municipality move them from their current location. Many people were also badly affected by the previous floods earlier this year. Nowini Lenombona's home was flooded in January.
My 3-room house collapsed in January due to the floods, and I had to move next door to rent. The house was not yet completed. It's also leaky. When it rains, the rain comes through the roof. It is now wet.
And finally, the Limbombo border post separating South Africa and Mozambique in Komatipoort to Mpumalanga remains partially open. This is to allow Mozambicans and South Africans close to the border to cross back home. However, the movement of trucks at the border is still on hold amidst the ongoing political protests in Mozambique, which have since moved closer to the border. The Border Management Authority in South Africa is waiting for updates on the situation on the ground from the Mozambican counterparts to decide whether to fully open operations at the border. The BMA is further expected to meet this morning. The Commission is also expected to be present to check on the operations. Recapping the top story, former EFF chairperson Advocate Dali Mpofu has revealed he was involved in the formation of the Thulasizwe party. Mpofu adds there were engagements chaired by himself with the leaders of other political parties such as the UEM, PAC, ATM and the EFF, among others. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
#SAFM Talking Point.
Hi, I'm Andrew, and I was recently diagnosed with myelodysplastic syndrome. Patients like myself go through a long and strenuous journey to get a stem cell transplant. I am grateful for the support I've received as I wait for the call that my donor has been found. This Sunflower Month, be a lifeline to patients like myself by registering to become a stem cell donor. You can save a life by registering at dkmsafrica.org.
RB Leipzig believe every football moment counts and they want nothing but a win. Meanwhile, Borussia Mönchengladbach target 3 points as they embark on a journey to escape from the bottom half. This is the Bundesliga. Football as it's meant to be. Catch the nail-biting encounter between RB Leipzig and Borussia Mönchengladbach on Saturday 9 November at 7:30 p.m. Live everywhere for everyone. Always on SABC Plus. Also available on sabcsport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Our role must be to seek to build a better world.
SAFM invites you to our annual public lecture delivered by former Minister Dr. Naledi Pandor. The theme for the lecture is 30 Years of South African Freedom. Reimagining South Africa's democracy, achievements, challenges, and the road ahead in protecting our democratic gains. The lecture will take place on the 21st of November 2024 at the Birchwood Hotel and Conference Center. Secure your seat by emailing us at info@safm.co.za.
Today, I'm part of seeking to build a better South Africa.
SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
And that's the news for the